A beautiful woman sat down next to me at a restaurant and said, "Your wife is dating my husband." Together, we gave my wife a surprise she never expected. The restaurant was too loud for a Tuesday night. I remember thinking that as I sat alone at the corner table, fork hovering over pasta I had no appetite for. The kind of noise that fills spaces where people pretend everything is fine. Laughter that sounds rehearsed. Conversations that echo without meaning. I'd chosen this place because it was close to the office, because the lighting was dim enough that no one would notice a man eating dinner alone at 7:30 on a weeknight, scrolling through his phone like he was waiting for someone. I wasn't waiting for anyone. My wife Claire had texted 3 hours earlier, "Working late again, don't wait up." 4 words that had become a eulogy for our marriage, delivered in casual intervals over the past 6 months. Working late, client dinner, girls' night, each excuse a small, precise incision that I'd learned to accept with a nod, a thumbs up emoji, a no problem, babe. But there were problems, so many problems, I'd stopped counting them, stopped examining them under the light, stopped asking questions because I was terrified of the answers. The pasta was getting cold. I set down my fork and reached for my wine, a Merlot I'd ordered because Claire always said Merlot was trying too hard. When I noticed her, she was standing near the hostess stand, scanning the restaurant with the focused intensity of someone looking for a specific person. Tall, maybe 5'9", with auburn hair that caught the amber lighting like brushed copper. She wore a cream-colored coat over dark jeans, elegant but not ostentatious, the kind of woman who turns heads without trying. And she was looking directly at me. I glanced behind me. Maybe she'd spotted a friend, a colleague, anyone other than the sad bastard nursing a glass of wine over cooling penny. But when I turned back, she was already moving toward my table with purpose. Her green eyes locked on mine with an expression I couldn't quite read. Determination? Fear? Recognition? "Excuse me," she said, her voice low and steady. "Are you David Mercer?" My hand tightened around the wine glass. No one had called me by my full name in this restaurant before. No one knew I came here. Yes, I managed. "Do I know you?" She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she glanced at the empty chair across from me, then back at my face, studying me with an intensity that made my pulse quicken. "My name is Vanessa Hartley," she said, "and I know this is going to sound insane, but I need you to listen to me for 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes, and then if you want me to leave, I will." I should have said no, should have told her she had the wrong person, that I was waiting for someone, that this wasn't a good time. But something in her eyes stopped me, a kind of desperate courage, like she'd spent hours working up the nerve to approach me and was terrified I'd send her away before she could speak. "Okay," I heard myself say. 5 minutes. She slid into the chair across from me with visible relief, setting a small leather bag on the floor beside her. Up close, I could see the tension in her jaw, the way her fingers trembled slightly as she folded her hands on the table. This woman was beautiful, yes, but more than that, she was scared. "I'm going to be direct," Vanessa said, meeting my eyes with an expression that felt like standing at the edge of a cliff. "Your wife is having an affair with my husband." The restaurant noise seemed to collapse into static. I heard my own breathing, too loud, too fast. The wine glass in my hand suddenly felt impossibly heavy. "What?" "I know how that sounds," she continued, her voice gaining strength. "I know you don't know me, and you have no reason to believe me. But I've been following them for 3 weeks now, and I have proof. Photographs, hotel receipts, text messages, and I think," she paused, swallowing hard, "I think we both deserve to know the truth." I wanted to laugh, wanted to tell her she was mistaken, that my wife was working late, that there had to be some reasonable explanation. But the laugh died in my throat because somewhere deep down, in the place where we store truths too painful to examine, I already knew. All those late nights, the new perfume she'd started wearing, the way she'd become protective of her phone, taking it into the bathroom, sleeping with it under her pillow. The distance into her eyes when I kissed her goodbye in the mornings, like she was already somewhere else, with someone else. "Who's your husband?" I asked, my voice sounding hollow and far away. "Marcus Hartley. He owns Hartley and Associates, the marketing firm downtown." The name meant nothing to me, but then again, Claire had stopped talking about work months ago, stopped sharing the small details of her day, the funny anecdotes about colleagues, the complaints about her boss. Our conversations had become transactional, grocery lists and bill payments and, "Can you pick up the dry cleaning?" When had we stopped being people who loved each other and become people who simply coexisted? "I don't understand," I said. "Why are you telling me this? Why not just confront your husband?" Vanessa's laugh was bitter, sharp-edged. "Because I did. 2 weeks ago, I laid it all out. The evidence, the hotel room I'd tracked them to, everything. And you know what he did?" Her eyes glistened, but no tears fell. "He called me paranoid, said I was having an episode, made me feel like I was losing my mind. Then he took my evidence, the USB drive with all the photos and receipts, and he destroyed it. Stomped it under his shoe like it was nothing. Like I was nothing." I watched her hands tighten into fists on the table, knuckles going white. "He's been gaslighting me for months," she continued, making me question my own memory, my own sanity. "And I realized something. I can't do this alone. If I confront him again without backup, he'll just twist it around, make me look like the crazy, jealous wife. But if you're there, if we both confront them together with irrefutable proof." She leaned forward, her voice dropping to almost a whisper. "They can't gaslight both of us." The logic was sound, but my mind was still catching up, still processing the fact that my marriage, the thing I'd built my adult life around, might be a carefully constructed lie. "Show me," I said. "Show me your proof." Vanessa reached into her bag and pulled out her phone, unlocking it with shaking fingers. She pulled up a photo album and turned the screen toward me. The first photo was dated 3 weeks ago. It showed Claire, unmistakably Claire, in the navy dress I'd bought her for her birthday, walking into a boutique hotel downtown. She wasn't alone. Next to her, his hand on the small of her back, was a man in his early 40s with salt and pepper hair and an expensive suit. He was leaning close to her, whispering something that made her smile, really smile, the way she used to smile at me years ago, back when we were still discovering each other. I felt something crack inside my chest. Vanessa swiped to the next photo, same hotel, different angle. Claire and Marcus in the lobby, checking in. Her hand in his. Another photo, them leaving 3 hours later, her hair slightly mussed, his shirt untucked. "There are 47 more," Vanessa said quietly. "Different hotels, different restaurants. I have receipts showing he paid for champagne and room service. I have text messages he forgot to delete from his iPad, the one he leaves at home because he doesn't think I'm smart enough to check it." She swiped again, and this time I saw text messages. Marcus's name at the top, and below it, a conversation that made my stomach turn. "Can't wait to see you tonight. Tell the husband you're working late. Already did. He never questions it anymore. I think he's given up. His loss, my gain. Room 414, same as last week? Perfect. I'll bring that thing you like." The timestamp showed this conversation happened 4 days ago. While I was at home watching Netflix alone, eating leftover Chinese food, wondering why my wife had become a stranger. I pushed the phone back across the table, unable to look at it anymore. "I'm sorry," Vanessa said, and I could hear genuine compassion in her voice. "I know this is..." "Why?" The word came out harsh, almost angry. "Why would she do this? Why would he? Don't you have... aren't you two?" I couldn't finish the question, but Vanessa understood. "Married for 9 years," she said. 2 kids, 7 and 4. I thought we were happy. I thought I knew him." She looked down at her hands. Apparently, I didn't know anything. We sat in silence for a moment, 2 strangers bound by betrayal, by the unique humiliation of discovering that the person who promised to love you forever had been practicing leaving you all along. "What do you want from me?" I asked finally. Vanessa looked up, and I saw something fierce and calculating in her expression, not cruelty exactly, but a cold determination that told me she'd been planning this conversation for longer than 3 weeks. "I want to give them exactly what they deserve," and she said, "not violence, not drama, just truth. Undeniable, documented, irrefutable truth. I want to confront them together in a way they can't spin or deny, And I want to do it smart. Smart how? She leaned back, a small smile playing at the corners of her mouth. It was the kind of smile that made me understand why her husband would be a fool to underestimate her. I'm a forensic accountant, Vanessa said. I investigate financial fraud for a living. And over the past 3 weeks, while Marcus thought he'd successfully convinced me I was paranoid, I've been doing what I do best, following the money. She pulled a folder from her bag, setting it on the table between us. Marcus has been siphoning money from our joint accounts to pay for hotel rooms, gifts, and dinners. But that's not all. I think he's been hiding assets in preparation for a divorce. Offshore accounts, cryptocurrency investments, real estate purchases under shell companies. If I'm right, and I'm always right about these things, he's planning to leave me and make sure I walk away with almost nothing. My mind reeled. And you think Claire might be involved? I don't know, Vanessa admitted, but your wife works in corporate law, doesn't she? Estate planning, asset protection? I nodded slowly. Claire had been so proud when she'd made partner at her firm 2 years ago. We'd celebrated with champagne and plans for the future, a bigger house, maybe kids, a life we'd finally built into something worth having. It's possible she's been helping him, Vanessa continued. Possible they're planning something together. Or possible she has no idea and she's just the affair. Either way, we need to know the truth, all of it. I looked at this woman sitting across from me, this stranger who'd walked into my quiet devastation and offered me something I hadn't even known I wanted, clarity. The chance to stop wondering, stop questioning, stop feeling like I was losing my mind every time Claire said working late with that practiced casualness. What's your plan? I asked. Vanessa's smile widened slightly. First, we gather everything we need. I have the photos and messages, but I want more. I want financial records, phone logs, credit card statements, a complete picture of what they've been doing. I can get most of it myself, but I'll need your help accessing Claire's phone and computer. You want me to spy on my wife? I want you to document the truth, she corrected. There's a difference. Was there? I wasn't sure anymore, but as I sat there, looking at this woman who'd been brave enough to approach a stranger in a restaurant with devastating news, I realized something. I was tired of being the person things happened to, tired of accepting explanations that didn't make sense, tired of living in a marriage that had become a performance. If Claire and Marcus wanted to rewrite our lives, they didn't get to do it in secret. Okay, I said, I'm in. What do we do first? Vanessa reached across the table, and for a moment I thought she was going to take my hand. Instead, she pulled a business card from her bag and slid it toward me. First, she said, we need to meet somewhere private, somewhere we can talk freely and plan without being overheard. Tomorrow night, 7 o'clock, there's a cafe on Morrison Street. Quiet, no one we know goes there. Can you make it? I thought about my empty apartment, my wife who wouldn't be home until late, my life that had become a series of empty hours waiting for something to change. I'll be there, I said. Vanessa stood, slinging her bag over her shoulder. She looked down at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Sadness, solidarity, determination, all mixed together. I'm sorry we had to meet like this, she said, but I'm not sorry we met. Then she was gone, disappearing into the noise of the restaurant, leaving me alone with cold pasta and a folder full of evidence that my marriage was a lie. I sat there for a long time after she left, staring at the business card. Vanessa Hartley, CFA, Forensic Accounting Services. A phone number, an email address, a lifeline I hadn't known I needed. My phone buzzed, a text from Claire. Going to be even later than I thought. Big presentation tomorrow. Love you. I looked at those last 2 words, love you, and wondered when they'd stopped meaning anything. When they'd become just punctuation, a habit, a formality we observe because that's what married people do. I picked up my wine glass and drained it, feeling the warmth spread through my chest without bringing any comfort. Tomorrow night, I would meet Vanessa Hartley at a cafe on Morrison Street. Tomorrow night, I would stop being the man who accepted lies with a nod and a thumbs up emoji. Tomorrow night, the truth would finally start demanding space. But tonight Tonight, I would go home to my empty apartment and wait for my wife to come back from whatever hotel room she was in, from whatever version of herself she became when she was with him. I would kiss her hello when she finally walked through the door, exhausted from her presentation. I would ask her how her day was and listen to her practice the lies she'd gotten so good at telling. And I would remember the woman with green eyes who'd sat down across from me and said the words I'd been too afraid to think. Your wife is having an affair. The truth was out now, loose in the world, demanding acknowledgement, and there would be no putting it back. The cafe smelled like burnt coffee and old books. I arrived 15 minutes early, which gave me time to choose a table in the back corner where the lighting was soft and the other customers, a college student with headphones, an elderly man doing a crossword puzzle, seemed absorbed in their own worlds. The kind of place where two people could talk about betrayal and revenge without anyone noticing or caring. I'd barely slept the night before. Claire had come home at 11:30, smelling like expensive wine and some cologne I didn't recognize. She'd kissed my cheek with practiced affection, told me about the presentation she'd been working on, something about corporate restructuring and asset protection that I would have found interesting if I'd believed a single word, and then disappeared into the bathroom for 40 minutes. When she finally came to bed, she'd fallen asleep immediately, her back to me, her breathing slow and peaceful, the breathing of someone with nothing to hide. I'd lain awake beside her, staring at the ceiling, thinking about hotel rooms and text messages and the way she'd smiled in those photographs. Really smiled. The kind of smile that suggested she'd found something with Marcus Hartley that she'd lost with me. Or maybe never had with me at all. At 3 a.m, I'd gotten up and stood in our kitchen, looking at the life we'd built. The wedding photos on the wall, the coffee maker she'd insisted we needed, the dish towel that said, "Home is where the heart is," that her mother had given us as a housewarming gift. All of it suddenly felt like props in a play I didn't know I was performing in. Now, sitting in this cafe with my third cup of coffee going cold in front of me, I wondered what I was doing. Meeting a stranger to plan some kind of confrontation with my wife felt surreal, like something that happened to other people. People in movies or therapy sessions or trashy reality shows. But it was happening to me. The bell above the door chimed and Vanessa walked in. She looked different in daylight, or what passed for daylight in the gray November afternoon. Less polished than she'd been at the restaurant, wearing jeans and a burgundy sweater, her hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. She spotted me immediately and made her way through the cafe, carrying a leather messenger bag that looked heavy. "You came," she said, sliding into the chair across from me. There was relief in her voice. "You thought I wouldn't?" "I thought you might spend the night convincing yourself I was crazy," she admitted. "That you'd wake up and decide to forget the whole thing, go back to your life and pretend we never met." I almost laughed. "I tried that. Around 4 this morning, I tried very hard to convince myself you'd made a mistake, that you had the wrong David Mercer, that those photos were somehow fake or taken out of context." I met her eyes. It didn't work. Vanessa nodded slowly, understanding written across her face. I spent 3 weeks doing the same thing, making excuses, finding innocent explanations for things that had no innocent explanation. It's amazing what we'll believe when the alternative is too painful. A waitress approached, young, bored-looking, with purple streaks in her hair. Vanessa ordered black coffee and a croissant she probably wouldn't eat. I asked for water. When the waitress left, Vanessa pulled a laptop from her bag and set it on the table between us. "Before we start," she said, "I need to know you're serious about this, about seeing it through, whatever we find, because once we open these doors, we can't close them again." I thought about Claire sleeping peacefully beside me last night, about the way she'd kissed my cheek with such casual affection, like I was a piece of furniture she was fond of, about the 9 years we'd spent building a life together, and how quickly it had all become a performance neither of us believed in anymore. "I'm serious," I said. "Good." Vanessa opened the laptop and turned it toward me. "Then let's start with what I know." The screen showed a spreadsheet, rows and columns of dates, amounts, locations. Everything color-coded and meticulously organized. I've been tracking Marcus's spending for 3 weeks, she explained, her finger tracing down the columns. Hotel charges, restaurant bills, cash withdrawals. This is just the obvious stuff, the affair expenses. But look here. She clicked to a different tab. These are the concerning transactions. Money moving from our joint account into accounts I don't have access to. Small amounts at first, 500 here, 1,000 there. But over the past 6 months, he's moved nearly $200,000. I stared at the numbers, trying to process what I was seeing. Where did it go? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Some of it went to cryptocurrency exchanges, Bitcoin, Ethereum, things that are hard to trace. Some went to what looks like investment firms, but when I tried to follow the trail, I hit dead ends. Shell companies, offshore accounts, layers of bureaucracy designed to hide assets. She looked up at me. This is sophisticated work, the kind of thing that requires legal expertise. You think Claire helped him? I think it's possible. Your wife specializes in asset protection, doesn't she? Helping wealthy clients shelter money from taxes, ex-spouses, creditors. I nodded, feeling sick. She's proud of it, says she's helping people protect what they've earned. Or helping people steal what they're planning to abandon, Vanessa said quietly. I'm sorry, I know that's harsh. The waitress returned with Vanessa's order. We waited in silence as she set down the coffee and croissant, then disappeared again. What do you need from me? I asked finally. Vanessa reached into her bag and pulled out a small device, black, rectangular, no bigger than a USB drive. This is a phone cloning tool. If you can access Claire's phone for about 5 minutes, this will copy everything, texts, emails, photos, app data, deleted messages, everything. I stared at the device like it was a loaded gun. You want me to spy on my wife's phone? I want you to gather evidence, she corrected, echoing what she'd said at the restaurant. There's a difference. Is there? Because this feels like what? Vanessa's voice was sharp now, edged with frustration. Like violating her privacy? Like being dishonest? She leaned forward. David, your wife is having an affair. She's lying to you every single day. She comes home smelling like another man and tells you she was working late, and you smile and say it's fine. So yes, I'm asking you to access her phone without permission. I'm asking you to stop being the nice guy who respects boundaries that your wife stopped respecting months ago. The words hit like a slap, but I couldn't argue with them. Because she was right. I'd been so focused on being the understanding husband, the one who didn't make demands or ask uncomfortable questions, that I'd forgotten I deserved honesty. I deserved truth. Okay, I said, what do I do? Vanessa's expression softened. Tonight, when she's in the shower or distracted, plug this into her phone. It'll look like it's charging. The device will do the rest. Takes about 3 to 5 minutes. When it's done, it'll flash green. Remove it, and that's it. Tomorrow, bring it back to me, and I'll extract the data. She slid the device across the table. I picked it up, feeling its weight in my palm. Such a small thing to hold the potential destruction of a marriage. What about Claire's computer? I asked. Her work laptop? Can you access it? Maybe. She usually leaves it in her home office. Sometimes she forgets to lock it. Vanessa pulled out another device, this one a USB drive. If you get the chance, plug this in. It'll copy her files in the background while the computer appears to be working normally. Shouldn't take more than 10 minutes. I pocketed both devices, feeling like I'd crossed some invisible line. Yesterday, I'd been a man eating dinner alone, pretending everything was fine. Today, I was plotting surveillance on my own wife. There's something else, Vanessa said, her voice dropping lower. Something I haven't told you yet. I looked up, seeing hesitation in her eyes for the first time. What? I think they're planning to leave. Together. I have found plane tickets on Marcus's iPad. 2 seats to Costa Rica, departing December 15th. One-way tickets. The cafe seemed to tilt sideways. One-way? Costa Rica doesn't have an extradition treaty with the U.S. for certain financial crimes, Vanessa explained. And if Marcus has been moving money offshore, if he's been setting up accounts we can't touch, December 15th might be the day he disappears with our money and your wife. I did the math. December 15th was 3 weeks away. You don't know for sure Claire is going with him, I said, but even I could hear the desperation in my voice. The tickets were purchased from his email, but they're in both their names, Marcus Hartley and Claire Mercer. Vanessa pulled out her phone and showed me a screenshot. I'm sorry. I wish I was wrong. There it was, my wife's name next to his, on tickets to a new life that didn't include me, a life they were planning while I slept beside her, while I asked about her day, while I kept being the husband to a woman who had already left. Jesus, I whispered. I know. Vanessa's hand moved across the table, stopping just short of touching mine. I know this is a lot. Believe me, I've been living with this knowledge for days, and it doesn't get easier. But that's why we need to move fast. If they're leaving in 3 weeks, we need to confront them before they can disappear. And we need to do it in a way that it protects us, legally, financially, emotionally. What's your plan? The plan, Vanessa said, is to beat them at their own game. We gather evidence, everything we can find, phone records, financial documents, emails, photos, all of it. We build an irrefutable case, and then, she paused, a small smile playing at her lips. Then we call a meeting, all 4 of us. We sit them down and lay it all out. Every lie, every hotel room, every dollar moved, every plan they've made. We give them a choice. Come clean and work out an honest divorce, or we take everything we've found to lawyers, to their employers, to anyone who needs to know what they've been doing. Blackmail, I said. Leverage, she corrected. There's a difference. I thought about it, running through scenarios in my head. The confrontation, the shock on their faces, the scrambling, the denials that would eventually crumble under the weight of evidence. What if they don't care, I asked. What if we show them everything and they just leave anyway? Then at least we know, Vanessa said. At least we stop living in the dark, stop wondering if we're crazy, stop accepting lies as love. She finally let her hand touch mine, just briefly. David, I've spent 9 years with a man who made me feel like I was losing my mind, who convinced me that my instincts were wrong, that my concerns were paranoia. And I'm done. I'm done being made to feel small by someone who promised to honor me. Her voice cracked slightly on the last word, and I saw tears threatening at the corners of her eyes, but she blinked them away, straightening her shoulders. I want my dignity back, she continued. I want to look at myself in the mirror and know I didn't just accept this, that I stood up and demanded truth. Even if it destroys everything, at least it'll be honest destruction. Not this slow poisoning. I understood then why she'd approached me, not just because she needed an ally, but because she needed someone who understood, someone who knew what it felt like to be erased slowly, day by day, by someone who'd promised forever. Okay, I said, we do this together. All the way through. Vanessa nodded, wiping quickly at her eyes. Thank you. I know I'm asking a lot. You're not asking anything I shouldn't have been doing already, I interrupted. I've been avoiding the truth for months because I was scared of what I'd find. You're giving me permission to stop being scared. We sat in silence for a moment, 2 strangers bound by betrayal, planning their revenge in a cafe that smelled like burnt coffee and old books. Can I ask you something? I said finally. Of course. Do you still love him? Marcus? Vanessa considered the question, staring down at her untouched croissant. I don't know, she admitted. I loved who he was, the man who brought me coffee in bed, who remembered my mother's birthday, who built Lego towers with our kids. But that man, she gestured vaguely, I don't think that man exists anymore. Or maybe he never existed at all. Maybe I just loved the performance. Yeah, I said quietly. I know that feeling. Do you still love Claire? The question hit harder than I expected. Did I? I loved the memory of her, the woman I'd married 9 years ago, who'd laughed at my terrible jokes and cried during commercials and made me believe in forever. But the woman who came home smelling like cologne that wasn't mine, who lied with such practiced ease, who was planning to disappear to Costa Rica without a word. I don't think love survives this kind of betrayal, I said. I think something dies, and what's left is just grief for what we thought we had. Vanessa nodded slowly. That's beautifully sad. It's just sad, I corrected. We talked for another hour, refining plans, discussing contingencies, exchanging phone numbers and email addresses. Vanessa showed me more evidence. Credit card statements showing charges at jewelry stores I didn't recognize, restaurant receipts from places Claire had never mentioned, hotel stays that overlapped with nights she'd claimed to be working late or visiting her sister. Each piece of evidence was another small death, another moment where the marriage I believed in revealed itself as fiction. Finally, as the gray afternoon faded into evening, Vanessa packed up her laptop and stood to leave. "Text me tomorrow," she said. "Let me know if you were able to access her phone." "I will." She hesitated, then said, "David, I know this doesn't help, but it's not your fault. Whatever she did, whatever reason she tells herself justify this. It's not because you weren't enough. People who cheat, they're filling holes in themselves that no one else can fill." I wanted to believe her, wanted to think that Claire's betrayal was about her own brokenness and not about my failures as a husband. But late at night, alone with my thoughts, I couldn't help wondering, what had I done wrong? When had I stopped being enough? "Thanks," I said. "You too. Whatever Marcus's reasons are, they're not about you." Vanessa smiled sadly. "We're quite a pair, aren't we? Trying to console each other while our spouses plan their escape to paradise." "At least we're not alone," I said. "No," she agreed. "At least there's that." I watched her leave, disappearing into the November evening, and then I sat alone in the cafe for another 20 minutes, staring at my reflection in the dark window. The man looking back at me seemed older than he had yesterday, worn down by knowledge he couldn't unknow. My phone buzzed. A text from Claire. "On my way home. Want me to pick up dinner?" Such casual domestic normalcy, such practiced deception. "Sure," I texted back. "Thai food? Perfect. Love you." Those words again. Love you. A reflex, a habit, a lie we told each other because that's what the script required. I pulled out the phone cloning device Vanessa had given me, turning it over in my hands. Tonight, while Claire was in the shower or watching TV or doing whatever she did when she thought I wasn't paying attention, I would plug this into her phone. I would cross that final line between trusting husband and investigator of my own marriage. And tomorrow, I would know everything. The thought should have brought relief, but instead I felt only a deep, aching sadness. Because once I knew everything, once I saw all the evidence laid out in spreadsheets and screenshots and hotel receipts, there would be no going back. No more pretending. No more hoping I was wrong. Just truth. Cold and final and devastating. I left the cafe and drove home through streets that suddenly felt unfamiliar, like I was seeing my own neighborhood for the first time. The houses where people lived their lives, where they loved and fought and lied and tried their best. How many of them were performances? How many marriages were just two people playing roles, waiting for the courage or the opportunity to stop pretending? When I pulled into our driveway, I sat in the car for a long moment, looking at the house Claire and I had bought together. The life we'd made, the future we'd planned, all of it built on sand. I took a deep breath, pocketed the cloning device, and went inside to have dinner with my wife. The woman I no longer knew, the woman who was planning to disappear. The Thai food sat between us like a prop in a play neither of us wanted to be in. Claire had her hair down, the way I used to love, falling in dark waves over her shoulders. She changed out of her work clothes into yoga pants and an old college sweatshirt, the comfortable version of herself, the one that was supposed to signal home, safety, intimacy. But as I watched her move pad thai around her plate with her fork, barely eating, I couldn't stop seeing the other her, the one in the navy dress, walking into hotels with Marcus Hartley's hand on her back. "You're quiet tonight," she said, not quite meeting my eyes. "Long day," I replied, the lie coming easily. Too easily. Maybe we'd been teaching each other dishonesty all along, small deceptions that built into something monstrous. "Tell me about it," she said and laughed, a practice sound that didn't reach her eyes. "This merger case is killing me. I've been living at the office." Living, such an interesting word choice for what she'd actually been doing. I forced myself to take a bite of curry, to nod sympathetically, to play my part in our domestic theater. "Sounds rough." When do you think it'll calm down? Maybe another few weeks? There's talk about some of us taking a vacation once it's done, decompress. She finally looked at me then, and I wondered if I was imagining the guilt that flickered across her face. We should do something. Maybe get away for a while. When's the last time we took a real vacation? Costa Rica, I thought. December 15th, one-way tickets. That would be nice, I heard myself say. We could use some time away. She smiled, and for just a moment I saw the woman I'd married, the one who'd made me believe in second chances and new beginnings, the one I'd trusted with my whole heart. I'm going to take a shower, she announced, standing and collecting her barely touched food. Long day, like I said. I'll clean up, I offered. She kissed the top of my head as she passed, a gesture so familiar, so loaded with false intimacy, that I had to close my eyes against the anger that surged through me. How dare she? How dare she touch me with affection while planning her escape, while carrying another man's cologne on her skin? I waited until I heard the bathroom door close, heard the water start running. Then I moved. Her phone was charging on the kitchen counter where she always left it, face down. My hands were shaking as I unplugged it, as I pulled out Vanessa's device. Such a small thing, such a monumental betrayal. But was it betrayal if I was only searching for truth? If I was only trying to see clearly what had been deliberately hidden from me? I plugged the device into Claire's phone, watching as a small light blinked red. 3 to 5 minutes, Vanessa had said. I set the phone down carefully, exactly where Claire had left it, and forced myself to breathe. The apartment suddenly felt too quiet except for the shower running. I could picture Claire in there, washing away the day, washing away whatever she'd been doing, whoever she'd been with. Did she think of me at all? Did guilt ever creep in during these private moments? Or had she convinced herself that what she was doing was justified somehow? I looked at the phone, still blinking red. To distract myself, I moved to her home office, the small spare bedroom we'd converted when she made partner. Her laptop sat open on the desk, screen dark but not closed. I touched the trackpad and it came to life, no password required. She'd been working on something and hadn't bothered to log out. The USB drive Vanessa had given me was in my pocket. 10 minutes, she'd said. I could hear the shower still running. I plugged in the drive. A small window appeared on the screen. Copying files, 3-pound complete. I watched the percentage climb with agonizing slowness. 5%, 8%. The shower was still running, but for how long? I left the office and checked Claire's phone. Still blinking, red. Back to the laptop, 23%. The shower stopped. My heart hammered against my ribs. I stood frozen in the office, listening to the sounds of Claire moving around the bathroom. Drawers opening, the hairdryer starting up. The hairdryer meant time, at least 10 minutes. She never rushed that part of her routine. The laptop read 41%. I went back to the kitchen. Claire's phone flashed green. Thank God. I pulled out the device, pocketed it, plugged her phone back into its charger exactly as it had been. My hands were steadier now, muscle memory taking over. I was good at this, I realized with dark irony. Good at deception. Maybe Claire had been teaching me all along. 67% on the laptop. I heard the hairdryer shut off. Panic flared hot in my chest. 79%. Claire's voice from the bathroom. David, can you bring me a towel? I forgot to grab one. 84%. Sure, just a second, I called back, trying to keep my voice normal. I grabbed a towel from the linen closet, forced myself to walk slowly to the bathroom door. Claire opened it just enough to reach through, her hair damp and curling, steam billowing out behind her. Thanks, babe, she said, smiling at me. That smile, the one I used to love, the one that now felt like a knife. No problem. She closed the door. I heard her moving around, getting dressed. I practically ran back to the office. 96%, 98%, 100%, file copy complete, safe to remove device. I yanked out the USB drive just as Claire's voice called from the bedroom. Have you seen my phone charger? Kitchen counter, I called back, pocketing the drive and closing the laptop carefully, making sure the screen went dark. I stepped out of the office and closed the door behind me, my heart still racing. Claire emerged from the bedroom in pajamas, her hair wrapped in a towel. She looked so normal, so domestic, so completely unlike someone who was planning to abandon her marriage and flee to another country. "You okay?" she asked, studying my face. "You look flushed." "Fine," I said. "Just probably ate too fast." She moved closer, pressing the back of her hand to my forehead like she was checking for fever. The gesture was so tender, so familiar, that for a moment I wanted to believe everything was fine, that Vanessa was wrong, that the photos were misleading, that there was some innocent explanation for all of it. But then Claire's phone buzzed on the counter. She glanced at it, and I saw something shift in her expression, a tightening around her eyes, a quick tension in her jaw. "Work?" I asked casually. "Yeah," she said, moving to pick up the phone. "Just an email. They never stop, do they?" She typed something quickly, her back to me now. I couldn't see the screen, but I didn't need to. I had everything on Vanessa's device. Every text, every email, every photo she thought she'd hidden. "I'm exhausted," Claire said, setting her phone back down. "I think I'm going to go to bed early. You coming?" "In a bit," I said. "I want to finish cleaning up." She kissed my cheek, another practiced gesture, and disappeared into the bedroom. I stood alone in the kitchen, listening to her settle into bed, and pulled out my phone. I texted Vanessa. "Got it. Both devices. Tomorrow?" Her response came within seconds. "Same place, noon. Bring coffee. We're going to need it." I looked at the closed bedroom door, at the life I'd built with a woman who was actively dismantling it while pretending everything was fine. The rage I'd been holding back all evening finally broke through, hot and sharp and clarifying. This was real. This was happening. And tomorrow I would see exactly how deep the betrayal went. The cafe was more crowded at noon than it had been at night, filled with lunch hour professionals and students on laptops. Vanessa had claimed a table in the far corner again. 2 coffees already waiting. She looked tired, dark circles under her eyes suggesting she'd slept as poorly as I had. "You got it?" she asked as I sat down. I pulled out both devices and slid them across the table. "Phone and computer, everything you asked for." Her hands closed around them with an expression of grim satisfaction. "Thank you, I know that wasn't easy." "It was surprisingly easy," I admitted. "That's what bothers me, how good I've gotten at lying to her face." "That's not lying," Vanessa said. "That's survival. There's a difference." I was getting tired of her insistence that there were differences between things that felt exactly the same. But I understood what she meant. We were fighting fire with fire, using deception to uncover deception. Vanessa pulled out her laptop and plugged in the phone cloning device. "This is going to take a few minutes to extract. While it's running, I want to show you what I found yesterday." She turned the laptop toward me, opening a folder filled with documents, bank statements, investment portfolios, property deeds, all in names I didn't recognize. "These are Marcus's hidden assets," she explained, "or what I've been able to trace so far: shell companies in Delaware, cryptocurrency wallets, offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands. And look at this." She pulled up a document, a property deed for a beachfront villa in Costa Rica, dated 3 months ago. Purchased for cash, $2.3 million. I stared at the screen, trying to process the numbers. "Where did he get that kind of money?" "From us," Vanessa said, her voice hard. "From our business, our investments, the money we were supposed to be saving for our kids' college funds. He's been siphoning it for over a year, moving it piece by piece where I couldn't see it." She pulled up another document. "And look at the name on the deed." I leaned closer. The property was registered to an LLC called MH Consulting Services. The primary contact was listed as Claire Mercer, attorney at law. The world tilted sideways. "Claire set this up," I said, the words feeling thick in my mouth. "She created the LLC, she facilitated the property purchase." "She didn't just know about the affair," Vanessa confirmed. "She was an active participant in the financial planning. Your wife has been helping my husband hide millions of dollars in preparation for their new life together." I sat back, the coffee forgotten, trying to understand how the woman I'd married, the one who'd cried at our wedding, who'd talked about having children someday, who'd said she wanted to grow old with me, had become someone capable of this level of calculated betrayal. "There's more," Vanessa said quietly. She pulled up an email chain dated 6 weeks ago, from Marcus Hartley to Claire Mercer. Subject, "Our future baby." I've been thinking about the timeline. December 15th feels right. The business deal will have closed, the money will be settled in the offshore accounts, and we can finally start our life together. No more sneaking around, no more lies. Just you and me and the ocean. I know you're worried about David, but you said it yourself. He'll be fine. He's got his job, his friends. He'll move on, and we'll be free. 2 more months. I can't wait to wake up next to you every morning without having to rush home. Can't wait to show you the villa. It's perfect, Claire. Everything we dreamed about. I love you. I've never loved anyone the way I love you. Emma Claire's response sent an hour later. I love you too. More than I thought I could love anyone. You're right about David. He'll be hurt, but he'll survive. He always does. And maybe this is better for him too. Better than staying in a marriage where I can't give him what he deserves anymore. December 15th, our new beginning. I'm scared and excited and so ready to stop pretending. See, I read the emails 3 times, each word a small explosion behind my eyes. He'll be fine, he always does. Such casual dismissal of 9 years together. Such easy erasure of our history. I'm sorry, Vanessa said, and I could hear genuine pain in her voice. I debated showing you that, but you needed to know. They're not just having an affair. They're in love, or they think they are. She's right, though, I said, surprised by how calm my voice sounded. I will survive this. That's not the point. The point is that she gets to decide for me without asking, that I'll be fine with being abandoned. That my feelings don't matter enough to warrant an honest conversation. That's how cheaters think, Vanessa said. They rewrite the narrative to make themselves the heroes. Marcus probably tells himself he's doing me a favor, setting me free to find someone who can make me happy. Like I asked for that. Like I wanted to raise our kids alone while he plays house with your wife in Costa Rica. The laptop beeped. The phone extraction was complete. Vanessa pulled up the data, her fingers flying across the keyboard. Text messages began populating the screen. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands. Months of conversation between Claire and Marcus. Oh God, Vanessa whispered, scrolling through them. David, there are photos. Do you want to see them? Yes, I said, though every instinct screamed at me to run, to close the laptop, to preserve whatever small piece of my dignity remained. She turned the screen toward me. The photos were intimate in a way that felt obscene. Not pornographic. Worse, somehow. Tender. Claire smiling into the camera, clearly in bed, clearly happy. Claire and Marcus together, his arm around her. Both of them laughing at some private joke. A selfie of Claire wearing a necklace I'd never seen with a caption, "Thank you for this. Thank you for everything." But the worst one, the one that made my hands clench into fists, was simple. Claire asleep, photographed by Marcus, early morning light streaming across her face. The caption read, "Can't wait until I can watch you sleep every morning." That intimacy, that casual ownership, that future they'd planned without consulting the people whose lives they were destroying. Enough, I said, pushing the laptop away. I've seen enough. Vanessa closed the screen gently. I'm sorry, I really am. Don't be sorry, you're giving me clarity. That's worth more than sparing my feelings. We sat in silence for a moment, 2 people examining the wreckage of their marriages, trying to find solid ground. So what now? I asked finally. We have the evidence. We know what they're planning. What's our next move? Vanessa's expression shifted, becoming calculating and cold. Now we get strategic. We have 3 weeks until they plan to leave. That gives us time to prepare. First, we need to secure our own financial positions. I've already moved my personal savings into an account Marcus doesn't know about. You should do the same. Anything that's solely in your name, move it somewhere safe. Claire and I don't have much separation in our finances, I admitted. Joint checking, joint savings. The house is in both our names. Then we need to be smart. Don't do anything that tips her off, but protect what you can. Talk to a lawyer, quietly. Get advice on asset protection. Document everything you can about your marriage, your contributions, your financial position. You've thought about this a lot. I've thought about nothing else for 3 weeks, Vanessa said. I lie awake at night, planning, refining, trying to figure out how to come out of this with my dignity and my children's future intact. She met my eyes. I know this sounds cold, but we're at war, David. They declared it when they started lying to us. We're just finally fighting back. What about the confrontation, I asked. When do we tell them we know? Not yet. We need more time to prepare, but she pulled up a calendar on her laptop. December 10th, 5 days before they're planning to leave. We invite them both to dinner, somewhere public, somewhere they can't make a scene. And we lay it all out. Every photo, every email, every offshore account. We give them a choice. Work with us on an honest separation, or we go nuclear. Nuclear how? They're employers, Vanessa said simply. Marcus's business partners. Claire's law firm. They both have professional reputations to protect. Marcus has investors who trusted him with their money he's been moving into personal accounts. Claire has a legal ethics board that might be very interested to know she helped a client hide assets from his spouse. We don't want to destroy them, but we need them to know we could. It was brilliant and terrifying. Not revenge exactly, but something colder. Strategic dismantling. 3 weeks of preparation, I said. 3 weeks of pretending I don't know anything while gathering more evidence. Can you do it? I thought about Claire sleeping peacefully beside me last night. About the emails where she'd dismissed my feelings so casually. About the villa in Costa Rica with her name on the deed. Yes, I said, I can do it. Vanessa reached across the table and took my hand. Not romantically, more like soldiers before battle, acknowledging what they were about to face together. Thank you, she said, for being in this with me. I don't think I could do this alone. Neither could I admitted. We spent another hour going through the evidence, making lists, planning our next steps. Vanessa showed me how to document everything, how to create backup copies, how to build an irrefutable case. She was methodical and thorough, her forensic accounting skills on full display. Finally, as the lunch crowd thinned and the cafe grew quiet again, I asked the question that had been nagging at me. What happens after? After we confront them? After everything falls apart? What happens to us? We rebuild, Vanessa said simply. We take whatever pieces are left and we build something new, something honest, something that doesn't require us to be smaller or quieter or more forgiving than we should be. Sounds lonely. Maybe, she acknowledged, but at least it'll be real. And maybe, she hesitated, maybe we stay in touch, not romantically, God, that would be messy, but as friends, as people who survived something terrible together. I'd like that, I said, and meant it. When I left the cafe that afternoon, I felt different, clearer. The rage was still there, burning steady, but it was focused now, purposeful. I wasn't a victim anymore. I was a strategist, a documentarian, someone building a case for his own dignity. That night, I went home to my wife. I kissed her hello. I asked about her day. I smiled and nodded and played my part perfectly. And the whole time I was gathering evidence, documenting, preparing, building the case that would finally demand truth. 3 days into my new life as a detective of my own marriage, I discovered I was better at deception than I'd ever imagined. It started small. Asking Claire how her day was and actually listening, not because I cared about the lies she'd tell, but because liars reveal themselves in details. She'd mentioned working late on the Morrison account, and I'd nod sympathetically while mentally noting that her calendar showed no Morrison account meetings. She'd complain about her colleague Jennifer being difficult, and I'd make sympathetic noises while remembering that she'd told Marcus in a text message 2 days ago that Jennifer had taken the week off for her honeymoon. The lies were everywhere once I started looking, a constant stream of small fabrications that built into something monstrous. But the worst part? She was good at it, so practiced, so casual, so utterly convincing that if Vanessa hadn't sat down across from me at that restaurant, I might have believed her forever. Now it was Saturday morning and Claire was making pancakes, something she only did when she was feeling guilty or wanted something. I sat at the kitchen island, coffee in hand, watching her move through the familiar routine. She'd pulled her hair into a messy bun, was wearing my old college t-shirt, looked every bit the devoted wife enjoying a lazy weekend morning. I was thinking, she said, flipping a pancake with practiced ease, maybe we should go away next weekend. Just the two of us. There's that bed and breakfast in Vermont you liked. My coffee cup stopped halfway to my mouth. This was new. In 6 months of affair and lies, she'd never once suggested we take a trip together. Vermont, I echoed. That's sudden. I know. She turned to face me, leaning against the counter with that smile that used to make my heart skip. I've just been so focused on work lately, and I feel like we haven't had time together. Real time, not just passing each other in the hallway. The audacity of it, the sheer breathtaking audacity of a woman who was planning to leave me in 2.5 weeks, suggesting we take a romantic weekend getaway. What about the merger case? I asked, keeping my voice light and curious. I thought you were drowning in work. Something flickered across her face, annoyance maybe, or calculation. We're ahead of schedule, actually. My boss said I should take some time before the final push. So what do you think, Vermont? We could leave Friday afternoon, come back Sunday. I did the math quickly. Today was Saturday, November 30th. She was suggesting we leave next Friday, December 6th, which would give her 1 weekend with me before she disappeared with Marcus on December 15th. One last performance before the curtain fell. Sure, I said, smiling back at her. That sounds great. I'll see if I can take Friday off. Her face lit up with what looked like genuine happiness, and for a moment, just a moment, I wondered if she actually felt conflicted. If there was some small part of her that mourned what we'd been, that regretted what she was doing. But then my phone buzzed with a text from Vanessa. Can you talk? Found something important. Who's that? Claire asked, a hint of something sharp in her voice. Work, I lied smoothly. Project deadline got moved up. I should probably check my email. On a Saturday? She set a plate of pancakes in front of me, the domestic gesture at odds with the suspicion in her eyes. They're working you too hard. Says the woman who spent last Tuesday at the office until midnight, I countered lightly. She laughed at that practiced sound again. Fair point. Okay, go handle your work crisis, but come back and eat these while they're hot. I took my phone into my office and closed the door, dialing Vanessa immediately. What did you find? I asked without preamble. Good morning to you too, she said, but I could hear the tension in her voice. I need you to sit down for this. I'm sitting. I've been going through the computer files from Claire's laptop, cross-referencing them with Marcus's financial records. David, the villa in Costa Rica? It's not the only property they purchased. There are 3 more, one in Panama, one in Portugal, one in Thailand, all purchased in the last 8 months, all under different shell companies, all with Claire listed as the legal representative. I felt the room tilt slightly. 3 more? How much money are we talking about? Conservatively? $7 million. Maybe more if you count the cryptocurrency investments and the offshore accounts I'm still trying to trace. Vanessa's voice was steady, but I could hear the anger underneath. They've been planning this for almost a year, David. This isn't some impulsive affair. This is a calculated exit strategy. $7 million. The number was so large it felt abstract, meaningless. But the implications were concrete enough. Marcus and Claire had been building an escape plan for months, systematically moving money, purchasing properties, creating a new life while their current spouses remained oblivious. Where did Marcus get that kind of money? I asked. That's what I've been trying to figure out. His business is successful, but not $7 million in cash successful. I think, she paused and I heard papers rustling. I think he's been defrauding his investors, moving their money into personal accounts, cooking the books to cover it. If I'm right, this isn't just infidelity, it's federal wire fraud, securities fraud. We're talking prison time if anyone finds out. And Claire helped him do it. Claire made it possible. She created the legal structures, the shell companies, the offshore accounts. Without her expertise, Marcus wouldn't have been able to hide this much money. Vanessa's voice hardened. Your wife isn't just a cheater, David. She's an accomplice to major financial crimes. I sat in silence, trying to process this evolution of betrayal. It wasn't enough that Claire was leaving me for another man. She'd been actively helping him commit fraud, risking her legal career, her freedom, everything we'd built together. Why would she do this? I asked, not really expecting an answer. She's a successful attorney. She has her own money, her own career. Why risk everything for him? Because she loves him, Vanessa said simply. Or thinks she does. Love makes people stupid, makes them believe they're invincible, that consequences are for other people. She paused. I found something else. Text messages from yesterday. They were moving up the timeline. My stomach dropped. Moving it up how? Not the departure date. That's still December 15th. But they're planning to serve us with divorce papers on December 10th. Same day they liquidate their remaining assets. 5 days before they leave, they'll have everything legal filed. Everything financial secured. We'll wake up that morning to divorce papers and empty bank accounts. Can they do that? Just drain everything without warning? If they're strategic about it, yes. Marcus has been slowly moving money from our joint accounts for months, small enough amounts that I didn't notice. On December 10th, he'll move what's left. And if Claire has access to your joint accounts, she didn't need to finish the sentence. I pulled up my banking app, checking balances I hadn't looked at in weeks. Joint checking, $12,847. Joint savings, $43,920. Not much in the grand scheme of things, but it was supposed to be our emergency fund, our safety net. I need to move this money, I said, today. Wait, Vanessa cautioned. If you move large amounts suddenly, Claire will notice. Her banking app will show the transfer. You need to be more subtle. How subtle can I be? You just told me she's planning to drain everything in 10 days. I know. Okay, here's what you do. Open a new account at a different bank. One Claire doesn't know about. Then start moving small amounts. 500 here, 1,000 there. Amounts that could plausibly be explained as costs, groceries, normal expenses. Build up a cushion in the new account without triggering alerts. It made sense, but the timeline made me nervous. 10 days to move $50,000 in increments, small enough not to raise suspicion? What about you? I asked. What are you doing to protect yourself? I've already moved everything I legally can. My personal accounts, my inheritance money, everything that was solely mine. The problem is the joint assets, our house, the investment accounts, the business. Marcus controls most of that. And if he liquidates before I can stop him, she trailed off. That's why December 10th is so critical. If they serve us with divorce papers that day, we lose any element of surprise. They'll have lawyers, injunctions, frozen accounts. We need to move first. You want to confront them earlier. I want to confront them December 9th. One day before they think we'll know. We gather them together, lay out everything we've found, and give them a choice. Work with us on an honest dissolution, or we take what we know to the authorities. The fraud, the hidden assets, all of it. I thought about Claire making pancakes this morning, suggesting Vermont, playing the loving wife one more time. The rage that had been simmering for days flared hot and bright. December 9th, I agreed, but we need a plan. We can't just confront them without knowing exactly what we're going to say, what we're going to demand. I'm already working on it. Can you meet tomorrow? There's a lot we need to coordinate. Tomorrow's Sunday. Claire and I stopped myself. Actually, she mentioned she has to go into the office for a few hours. Some brief that's due Monday. She's lying, Vanessa said flatly. I checked Marcus's calendar. He blocked off tomorrow afternoon for strategic planning meeting. No location listed. Of course. Sunday afternoon, another hotel room, another few stolen hours while their spouses waited at home like obedient props. How long? I asked quietly. What? How long have they been doing this? Not just the affair, all of it. The planning, the properties, the fraud. Vanessa was silent for a moment. Based on the financial records, at least a year, maybe longer. The first property purchase was 11 months ago, but the text messages only go back 6 months. So I can't be sure when it started. A year. 12 months of Claire coming home to me, kissing me goodnight, talking about our future while actively building a different one with someone else. 12 months of performance, of practiced lies, of casual betrayal. I have to go, I said. Claire's going to wonder why I'm taking so long. David, Vanessa's voice softened. I know this is hard, harder than anything I'm asking you to do, but we're going to get through this. 9 more days and we'll have our answers. We'll have our justice. Justice, I repeated. Is that what this is? What else would you call it? I didn't have an answer. Revenge? Self-defense? Truth-seeking? Maybe it was all of those things. Maybe justice was just a prettier word for the very human need to make someone hurt the way they'd hurt you. I'll call you tomorrow, I said. When Claire's at her fake office meeting, I hung up and sat in my office for a long moment, staring at the walls covered with photos of Claire and me. Our wedding day, various vacations, New Year's Eves and birthdays and ordinary Saturdays. All those moments that had felt real at the time, but now seemed like scenes from someone else's life. Had any of it been real? Had she ever loved me, or had I just been convenient? A placeholder until something better came along? David? Claire's voice from the kitchen. Your pancakes are getting cold. I stood, smoothed my expression into something approximating normalcy, and went to join my wife for breakfast. She'd set the table nicely, fresh flowers in a vase, orange juice in wine glasses, even cloth napkins. Such elaborate staging for an audience of one. These look amazing, I said, sitting down and cutting into the pancakes. They were perfect, of course. Claire had always been good at making things look perfect on the surface. So Vermont, she said, settling across from me with her own plate. I was thinking we could go hiking, maybe visit that winery we liked. Just reconnect, you know? I feel like we've been so disconnected lately. Have we? I asked carefully. Haven't you noticed? She reached across the table, covering my hand with hers. We barely talk anymore. We're like roommates, not partners. I miss you, David. I miss us. The performance was flawless. The hand on mine, the earnest expression, the slight catch in her voice that suggested vulnerability. If I didn't know better, if I hadn't seen the emails and the text messages and the property deeds, I would have believed her completely. I miss us too, I said, because it was true. I missed the version of us that I thought was real. I missed believing in our marriage, in our future, in the woman sitting across from me. Then let's fix it, Claire said, squeezing my hand. Vermont will be good for us, a chance to remember why we fell in love in the first place. 9 days, I thought. In 9 days, I would sit across from this woman again, but this time with Vanessa beside me and a folder full of evidence between us. In 9 days, the performance would finally end. I'd like that, I said, smiling at her. We finished breakfast in comfortable silence, the kind of silence that had once felt intimate but now felt calculated. Claire cleared the dishes, humming something under her breath, looking every bit the contented wife. My phone buzzed. A text from Vanessa. Just confirmed. Marcus blocked off tomorrow, 2:06 p.m. Same hotel they used last time. Want me to send you the address? I deleted the text immediately and looked up to find Claire watching me. Everything okay? She asked. Just work stuff, nothing urgent. She nodded, accepting the lie because she had no reason not to, because in her mind I was still the trusting husband, the one who never questioned, never investigated, never caught on. But I had caught on, and for 9 more days I would play my part perfectly. I would smile and nod and pretend to believe her. I would go to Vermont and hike and visit wineries and let her believe she was successfully managing both her lives. And then, on December 9th, I would stop pretending. The rest of Saturday passed in a haze of normalcy. We watched a movie, ordered takeout, went to bed early. Claire curled against me the way she used to, her breathing slow and even, her hand resting on my chest. I lay awake beside her, staring at the ceiling, thinking about hotel rooms and property deeds and the $7 million she'd helped Marcus hide. Thinking about the woman in my arms who'd become a stranger, who'd chosen another life so completely that this one, our one, had become just a temporary inconvenience. Tomorrow she would leave for her office meeting. Tomorrow, I would meet with Vanessa and we would plan the confrontation that would finally end this performance. But tonight, I held my wife and pretended to sleep, pretended everything was fine, pretended I didn't know that in 15 days, she was planning to disappear. The performance was exhausting, but I was getting better at it every day. Learning from the master. Sunday morning came with gray skies and the promise of rain. Claire was up early, getting ready for her important brief, wearing a dress that was too nice for a Sunday at the office, but perfect for a hotel room afternoon. "I should be home by 6, she said, kissing me goodbye at the door. "Maybe we can do dinner. That Italian place you like?" "Sounds good," I said, kissing her back, tasting lies on her lips. I watched her drive away, waited 10 minutes to be sure, then called Vanessa. "She just left," I said. Where do you want to meet?" "My house," Vanessa replied. "Marcus took the kids to his mother's for the day." Another convenient excuse. "I have everything laid out here. All the evidence, all the documentation. It's time we built our case." "Text me the address." 20 minutes later, I pulled up to a beautiful colonial in an upscale neighborhood. The kind of house that spoke of success, stability, the illusion of perfect family life. Vanessa opened the door before I could knock, looking tired but determined. "Come in," she said. "I've been up since 5, going through everything." Her dining room had been transformed into a command center. Her laptop sat open, surrounded by printed documents, photographs, timelines written on legal pads. It looked like something from a crime drama, and I suppose that's exactly what it was. "This is everything?" I asked, surveying the organized chaos. "This is everything," Vanessa confirmed. "Every lock, every dollar, every hotel room, a complete map of their betrayal." She looked at me with an expression that was part sadness, part fierce determination. "Are you ready to see how deep this goes?" I thought about Claire at that hotel right now, with Marcus, laughing, touching, planning their future while I stood in a stranger's dining room preparing to dismantle it. "Yes," I said, "show me everything." Vanessa's dining room looked like the workspace of someone preparing for trial, which in a way it was. She'd covered the large mahogany table with printouts organized into neat stacks, each labeled with color-coded tabs. Bank statements in blue, property documents in green, text message transcripts in yellow, hotel receipts in red. So many red tabs I felt sick looking at them. "Coffee?" Vanessa asked, gesturing toward a French press on the sideboard. "Please." She poured 2 cups and handed me one, her fingers steady despite the exhaustion written across her face. "I've been organizing this since 3 a.m. Couldn't sleep, kept thinking about all the pieces we're missing, all the ways this could go wrong." "You look like you haven't slept in days." "I haven't, not really." She sat down at the table, gesturing for me to join her. Every time I close my eyes, I see Marcus with his hand on her back, walking into those hotels. Or I imagine what he tells our kids when he tucks them in at night. "Daddy loves you. Daddy will always be here," knowing he's planning to abandon them in 2 weeks. "Does he see them much?" I asked, realizing I knew almost nothing about Marcus beyond his role as my wife's lover. "Every night he's home, he reads to them, helps with homework, plays Lego for hours." Her voice cracked slightly. "He's a good father, David. That's what makes this so incomprehensible. How does someone who cries at his daughter's dance recitals just decide to leave them, to move to another country and start over like they never existed?" "Maybe he's planning to take them." Vanessa's laugh was bitter. "On one-way tickets to Costa Rica, purchased under fake names, while fleeing potential federal charges? No, he's leaving them. He's made his choice, and it's her." The raw pain in her voice made me set down my coffee and really look at her. She was beautiful, yes, the kind of beauty that came from good bones and self-discipline. But more than that, she was intelligent, accomplished, devoted to her children. What could Marcus possibly find lacking that would drive him to blow up his entire life? "It's not about you," I said quietly. "Whatever his reasons are, they're not because you weren't enough." She met my eyes and I saw tears threatening. "That's what everyone says. It's not your fault. He's just broken. You deserve better." But it's hard not to wonder what I did wrong. Was I too focused on the kids? Too busy with work? Did I stop being the woman he fell in love with? Did Claire stop being the woman I fell in love with? I countered. Or did I just never really know her? Maybe this is who they are. People who choose comfort over commitment when things get hard. Is that what you think marriage is? Comfortable? No, I admitted. Marriage is work. It's choosing each other every day even when you don't feel like it. It's communication and compromise and showing up even when it's hard. I gestured at the papers covering the table. This is the opposite. This is two people who decided the work was too much, so they found an easier option. Vanessa wiped at her eyes with the back of her hand. Sorry, I didn't mean to get emotional. We have work to do. Don't apologize. We're allowed to be emotional about this. She nodded, taking a steadying breath. Okay, let me show you what I've organized. She pulled the nearest stack toward us, the blue-tabbed financial documents. These are Marcus's business accounts. His company, Hartley & Associates, manages investment portfolios for about 70 clients. Total assets under management, approximately $43 million. I whistled low. That's substantial. It was, until 6 months ago when he started moving client funds into personal accounts. She spread out several bank statements, highlighting specific transactions. Look at these transfers. Small amounts at first, $10,000 here, $20,000 there. Amounts that could be explained as management fees or operational costs. But they don't go to company accounts. They go here. She pointed to a different statement. Personal account in Marcus's name only, at a bank I'd never heard of until 3 weeks ago. How much has he taken? That I can prove, about $2.3 million. But I think it's more. These are just the transactions I can trace directly. There are probably offshore accounts and cryptocurrency transfers I haven't found yet. She looked up at me. David, if his clients find out, he's finished. This isn't just infidelity, it's embezzlement, breach of fiduciary duty, securities fraud. He'd lose his license, his business, everything. And he'd likely go to prison. Does Claire know? Based on the text messages? Yes. Look at this exchange from October. She pulled up her laptop and showed me a conversation between Claire and Marcus. Marcus. The Hendricks account cleared today, another $400K secured. Claire. Are you sure this is safe? What if they audit? Marcus. They won't. I've been doing this for months. The key is keeping the amount small enough not to trigger automatic reviews. Claire, I'm nervous. This is my license too if we get caught. Marcus, we won't get caught, and in 6 weeks it won't matter anyway. We'll be gone. Claire Bodner, promise me this is worth it. Promise me we're doing the right thing. Marcus, baby, I promise. You and me, the beach, the rest of our lives. No more hiding, no more pretending. Just us, Claire. Okay, I trust you, Marcus. I love you, Claire. I love you too. So much it scares me. I read the exchange 3 times, each pass making my chest tighter. Not just the betrayal, though that was agonizing enough, but the confirmation that Claire knew exactly what Marcus was doing. She wasn't an innocent bystander. She was actively participating, using her legal expertise to facilitate fraud. She's complicit, I said flatly. Completely. And that gives us leverage. Vanessa pulled out another stack, the green property documents. These are the properties they purchased using the stolen funds. 4 in total, like I told you yesterday. Combined value, approximately $7 million. But here's what's interesting. She spread out the deeds. They're all in Claire's name, not Marcus's, not a joint trust. Individual properties registered to Claire Mercer, attorney at law. Why would they do that? Protection. If Marcus gets caught for the embezzlement, if clients sue, if federal prosecutors come after him, the properties are untouchable because they're not in his name. Claire's acting as a legal shield, hiding assets he stole behind her professional credentials. Vanessa's smile was sharp and cold. But it also means she owns them, which means in a divorce, I can't touch them, but you can. The implications settled over me slowly. You're saying those properties are marital assets, mine and Claire's. Legally, probably. She purchased them during your marriage using income she earned while married to you. A good divorce attorney could argue you're entitled to half their value. Vanessa leaned forward. That's $3.5 million, David. Your share of the empire your wife built with her lover. The amount was staggering, abstract. I'd never had that kind of money, never even conceptualized it as something achievable. And now I was supposed to believe I was entitled to millions because my wife had helped her boyfriend commit fraud. This feels surreal, I said, and it is surreal, but it's also real. These documents, these transactions, they're all real. And on December 9th, we're going to sit Marcus and Claire down and show them exactly what we know. She pulled out a yellow legal pad covered in her handwriting. I've been drafting our demands. Want to hear them? Go ahead. Vanessa cleared her throat and began reading. 1. Both parties agree to honest, immediate divorce proceedings with full financial disclosure. 2. All hidden assets, properties, accounts, investments, are declared and divided according to state law. 3. Marcus returns all embezzled client funds within 30 days. 4. Neither party contests custody, alimony, or asset division. 5. Both parties sign NDAs preventing either from publicly discussing the other's conduct. And if they refuse, then we take what we know to the authorities, the FBI for the securities fraud, the State Bar Association for Claire's ethical violations, Marcus's clients for civil suits, his business partners. We burn it all down. She set down the legal pad and met my eyes. I don't want to do that, David. I don't want my children's father in prison, but I will if that's what it takes to protect myself and my kids. I thought about it, turning the scenario over in my mind. The confrontation, the shock on their faces, the scrambling, the denials that would crumble under the weight of evidence, the choice we'd offer them. Honest dissolution or complete destruction. They'll panic, I said. They'll lawyer up immediately. Let them. We have copies of everything, multiple backups in multiple locations. Even if they try to delete files or destroy evidence, we'll still have it. And once lawyers get involved, discovery will reveal everything anyway. We're just offering them a chance to do this quietly, to minimize damage. What about the Vermont trip? I asked. Claire wants to go this weekend. Should I cancel? Vanessa considered it. No, go. Play the loving husband one more time. Let her believe everything is fine. The more confident she feels, the more shocked she'll be when we confront them. And who knows? Maybe she'll slip up, say something incriminating you can use. The idea of spending a romantic weekend with Claire while knowing everything I knew felt nauseating. But Vanessa was right. The performance had to continue. Okay, I said. Vermont it is. We spent the next 3 hours going through every piece of evidence, building our timeline, rehearsing our confrontation. Vanessa was methodical and thorough, her forensic accounting skills on full display. She'd traced money through shell companies and offshore accounts with the determination of someone who'd made a career of finding financial truth. You're really good at this, I said during a break, watching her cross-reference bank statements with property records. I'm good at patterns, she replied without looking up. Numbers tell stories if you know how to read them. And Marcus's numbers that tell a very clear story. He's been planning this for over a year. Slowly, carefully, moving pieces into place. The affair with Claire probably started as something impulsive, but it became strategic. He needed someone with legal expertise to hide his assets, someone smart enough to create the infrastructure he needed to disappear. So Claire was useful. Claire was essential. Without her, Marcus would never have been able to move this much money without getting caught. She's not just his mistress, she's his accomplice, his co-conspirator. Vanessa finally looked up, her green eyes hard. Which means she's just as guilty as he is. Maybe more because she betrayed her professional ethics along with her marriage vows. My phone buzzed. A text from Claire. Done with work stuff, heading home soon. Want to start dinner together? I showed Vanessa the message. Work stuff, she read, her voice dripping with disdain. Let me check Marcus's location. She pulled up a tracking app on her phone. Apparently she'd installed it on Marcus's phone months ago when she first suspected something. Still at the Westin, room 1247. They've been there for 3.5 hours. 3.5 hours of my wife in a hotel room with another man while texting me about dinner plans. The casual duplicity of it took my breath away. What should I say? I asked. Say yes. Be sweet. Be the husband she thinks you are. Vanessa's expression softened slightly. I know it's hard, David. I know every text, every interaction feels like swallowing glass. But we're almost there. 9 more days. I texted back. Sounds perfect. Can't wait to see you. Claire's response came immediately. Love you. I stared at those words, the heart emoji, the casual endearment, and felt something finally break loose inside me. Not rage, exactly, something colder. A kind of clarity that came from seeing the performance so clearly I could no longer mistake it for reality. I don't think I ever really knew her, I said quietly. Vanessa looked up from her papers. What? Claire, I don't think I ever really knew who she was. I knew the version she showed me, the ambitious attorney, the woman who wanted marriage and partnership and all the traditional things. But this person? I gestured at the evidence spread across the table. This person who can lie so easily, who can help someone commit fraud, who can plan to abandon everything without a conversation. I never knew her at all. Maybe she didn't know herself, Vanessa offered. Maybe Marcus brought out something in her that was always there but dormant. Or maybe people change and we don't notice until it's too late. Do you still love Marcus? The question hung in the air between us. Vanessa set down her pen and leaned back in her chair, thinking. I love the father of my children, she said finally. I love the man who proposed to me on a beach in Mexico, who cried when our daughter was born, who spent 6 months building a treehouse because our son asked for one. But that man and the man who's in a hotel room right now planning to abandon his family, I don't think they're the same person. So no, I don't love who Marcus has become. I'm just grieving who I thought he was. That's a good way to put it, I said, grieving. This whole thing is grief, Vanessa said. We're mourning marriages that are already dead, people we thought we knew, futures we planned that will never happen. The confrontation won't kill our marriages. They're already gone. We're just finally acknowledging it. We sat in silence for a moment, 2 people in the wreckage, trying to find solid ground. Can I ask you something personal? Vanessa said. After everything we've shared? Sure. What happens after? After the confrontation, after the divorces, after the dust settles? What do you want your life to look like? I hadn't let myself think that far ahead. The last few days had been so consumed with evidence gathering and planning that I hadn't considered what came next. Life after Claire, life after this marriage, life as a single man starting over at 34. I don't know, I admitted. I think I want honesty, real honesty, not performed intimacy. I want to date someone and actually know who they are, not just who they're pretending to be. I trailed off, searching for words. I want to stop feeling like I'm walking on eggshells in my own life. That's a good goal, Vanessa said softly. Authenticity, transparency. What about you? I want my kids to be okay, she said immediately. That's first, always. I want them to grow up knowing their mother fought for them, protected them, didn't just accept betrayal as the price of peace. And personally? She smiled, sad and small. I want to look at myself in the mirror and recognize who's looking back. These past few weeks, preparing all this, standing up for myself, it's the first time in months I felt like me. Like Vanessa, not just Marcus's wife or the kid's mom, just me. You're pretty formidable, I said. Marcus is an idiot for not seeing it. Marcus saw a trophy wife and a convenient mother for his children, she replied. He never saw me as a person with my own needs, my own worth. Just like Claire never really saw you as more than a comfortable option until something more exciting came along. It hurt to hear, but it was true. Claire had loved the idea of me, stable, reliable, uncomplicated. But she'd never truly seen me, never been curious about who I was beneath the surface. Our marriage had been a mutual agreement to play roles, and when those roles no longer satisfied her, she'd simply found a new production. We deserve better, I said. Yes, Vanessa agreed, we do. My phone buzzed again. Claire, just pulled in the driveway. See you in a sec. I stood gathering my things. I should go. Can't have her wondering where I've been for the past 4 hours. What will you tell her? The gym, the bookstore, errands, small lies that add up to a believable Sunday. I looked at the evidence spread across her dining room table. Will this all be ready by December 9th? It'll be ready, Vanessa promised. I'll have everything organized in folders. One for them to review, one for us to keep, one for lawyers if it comes to that. We'll sit them down somewhere public, somewhere they can't make a scene, and we'll lay it all out. Calm, professional, undeniable. Where should we do it? I've been thinking about that. Somewhere neutral but private. Maybe a conference room at a hotel. We can reserve it under my name. Tell them we need to discuss something important. They'll think we found out about the affair, but not about the fraud. The shock will be even greater. I nodded, playing the scenario out in my mind one more time. December 9th, 7 o'clock? 7 o'clock, Vanessa confirmed. I'll make the arrangements and text you the details. At her front door, I hesitated. Thank you, I said, for finding me, for trusting me with this, for giving me the courage to stop accepting lies. Vanessa reached out and squeezed my hand. Thank you for believing me, for not thinking I was crazy, for being in this with me. She smiled, and for the first time I saw something other than grief and determination in her eyes. Hope, maybe, or just relief at not being alone. We're going to get through this, I said. Yes, she agreed. We are. I drove home through the gray afternoon, composing my face into something approximating normalcy. When I pulled into the driveway, Claire was in the kitchen, already starting dinner, humming something cheerful. Hey, she called when I walked in. How was your day? Good, I said, kissing her cheek, tasting lies. How was the brief? Exhausting but productive. I think we're finally getting somewhere. She smiled at me, that practiced performance. I'm so glad we're doing Vermont this weekend. I think it's exactly what we need. Me too, I said. And for the next 9 days, I would play my part perfectly. I would be the loving husband, the trusting partner, the man who believed every word she said, until December 9th, when the performance would finally end. The drive to Vermont should have been beautiful. Late autumn in New England always was. The last stubborn leaves clinging to branches. Mountains rising in layers of blue-gray mist, small towns with white church steeples, and general stores that sold apple cider and homemade fudge. The kind of scenery that belonged on postcards and honeymoon memories. But as I drove north on Friday afternoon with Claire in the passenger seat, her hand resting on my thigh, all I could see was the performance. The way she'd carefully selected her outfit that morning, cashmere sweater, fitted jeans, the leather boots I'd bought her last Christmas. The way she'd packed a small overnight bag with the deliberate thoughtfulness of someone crafting a scene. Even the playlist she'd made for the drive felt calculated. Songs from when we first dated, songs from our wedding, songs designed to evoke nostalgia and affection. I love this one, Claire said as an old Bon Iver track came on. Remember our first apartment? You played this album on repeat for like 3 months. I remember, I said, keeping my eyes on the road. You were so broke back then. We both were, but we were happy. She squeezed my thigh gently. Sometimes I miss that simplicity, before careers and mortgage and all the pressure. I wanted to laugh at the audacity of it. She was waxing nostalgic about our early relationship while actively planning to abandon it in 8 days. But instead I said, we were happy, and let the past tense hang in the air between us. If she noticed, she didn't comment. The bed and breakfast was exactly as I remembered it. A restored farmhouse painted pale yellow, with a wraparound porch and gardens that would be spectacular in spring but now stood dormant under the November sky. The owner, Mrs. Chen, greeted us warmly at the door. Mr. and Ms. Mercer, so wonderful to have you back. How long has it been? 3 years, Claire said, smiling that public-facing smile she wore like armor. Our anniversary trip. Well, you're in the maple suite again, just as you requested. I've put fresh flowers in the room and there's champagne chilling if you'd like to celebrate. Mrs. Chen handed us an old-fashioned key. Dinner is at 7 if you'd care to join the other guests, or I can have something sent to your room. We'll come down, Claire said, slipping her arm through mine with practiced intimacy. I'm looking forward to meeting people. Of course she was. The performance required an audience. Our room was on the second floor overlooking what would be a garden in summer, but was now just bare earth and sleeping perennials. Claire set down her bag and immediately went to the window, gazing out at the view with an expression I couldn't quite read. "It's still beautiful," she said. "Even in late fall, there's something peaceful about it." I stood behind her close enough to smell her perfume, the expensive one she'd started wearing 6 months ago, the one that wasn't for me. "Why did you want to come here, Claire?" She turned to face me, and for just a moment, I saw something flicker across her expression. Guilt? Regret? Fear? Then it was gone, replaced by that carefully composed smile. "Because I miss us," she said simply. "I miss the people we were when we came here 3 years ago, before everything got so complicated." Complicated, I repeated. That's an interesting word for it. What word would you use? I could have said it then, could have told her I knew everything in the affair, the properties, the fraud, the plane tickets to Costa Rica. Could have ended the performance right there in that room overlooking the dormant garden. But Vanessa's voice echoed in my mind. 9 more days. Let her believe everything is fine. "I don't know," I said finally. "Distant, maybe. Like we're living parallel lives instead of one shared life." Claire reached up and touched my face, her hand warm against my cheek. "Then let's fix that. This weekend, no work, no distractions. Just you and me, remembering why we chose each other." She kissed me then, soft and deliberate, and I kissed her back because that's what the script required. But I felt nothing except a vast, aching emptiness where love used to be. You can't kiss someone the same way once you know they're counting down the days until they can leave you. When she pulled back, Claire's eyes were bright, with unshed tears or just the performance, I couldn't tell. "I'm going to freshen up before dinner. Why don't you pour us some of that champagne?" She disappeared into the bathroom, and I stood alone in the room, staring at the champagne bucket Mrs. Chen had thoughtfully provided. Celebrating what exactly? The end of our marriage? Claire's successful deception? My own willful blindness for the past 6 months? I poured 2 glasses anyway and carried them to the window, looking out at the gray November landscape. My phone buzzed, a text from Vanessa. "How's Vermont?" "Surreal," I texted back. "She's performing harder than ever. Guilt, probably. Last hurrah before she leaves. You okay?" Define okay. Fair point. Hang in there. Wednesday we end this. Wednesday, December 9th, 4 days away. I could survive 4 more days of performance. Claire emerged from the bathroom, makeup refreshed, hair brushed, wearing a different sweater than the one she traveled in, this one with a slightly lower neckline, slightly more deliberate. She took the champagne glass I offered and raised it in a toast. "To us," she said, "to remembering." "To us," I echoed, and drank. Dinner was an exercise in endurance. Mrs. Chen seated us in a small dining room with 3 other couples, honeymooners from Boston, empty nesters from Connecticut, and a pair of middle-aged women celebrating their anniversary. Everyone was cheerful, asking the usual getting-to-know-you questions, and Claire played the devoted wife beautifully. "We've been married 9 years, she told the honeymooners when they asked. "Best decision I ever made." "What's your secret?" the bride asked, doe-eyed and hopeful. Claire reached across the table and took my hand, squeezing it with what looked like genuine affection. "Communication," she said without a trace of irony. "We talk about everything. No secrets, no walls, just honesty and trust." The words should have choked her, but they came out smooth as silk. I squeezed her hand back and smiled at the table, playing my part in her fiction. "That's beautiful," the bride said, looking at her new husband with adoring eyes. "I hope we're still that connected in 9 years. You won't be, I thought, but didn't say. Because no one is. Because marriage is just 2 people agreeing to perform intimacy until one of them gets bored and finds a better show. But I smiled and said, just keep talking to each other. That's the key. The empty nesters asked about children. Did we have any? Were we planning to? Claire's smile tightened almost imperceptibly. Not yet, she said. Our careers have been demanding. Maybe in a few years when things settle down. Never, she meant. In 8 days, she'd be in Costa Rica with Marcus. building a different life that didn't include me or the children we'd vaguely discussed having someday. All those conversations about baby names and school districts and whether we'd be the kind of parents who were strict or lenient, all of it meaningless. Just another performance, another set of lines she'd delivered convincingly enough that I'd believed her. After dinner, we walked through the small town, really just a main street with a general store, a bookshop, and a bar that doubled as a restaurant. The air was cold enough to see our breath, and Claire tucked herself against my side, seeking warmth or playing the part. Probably both. "Remember when we came here before?" she asked. "We walked this same street, and you bought me that ridiculous hat with the moose antlers." "You wore it all weekend," I said, remembering, "even though you looked absurd." "I looked adorable," she corrected, laughing, "and you loved it." I had loved her unself-conscious joy in that stupid hat, the way she'd worn it to breakfast and made the other guests laugh, the way she'd insisted on taking photos wearing it at every scenic overlook. That version of Claire, spontaneous, silly, unguarded, seemed like a different person now. Or maybe she'd just been performing then too, and I'd been too enamored to notice. "Want to go in?" Claire asked, nodding toward the bar. "One drink before bed?" The bar was warm and crowded, filled with locals and tourists seeking refuge from the cold. We found a small table in the corner, and Claire ordered whiskey while I stuck with beer. The alcohol loosened something in her, made her lean closer, touch my hand more frequently. "I've been thinking," she said, her voice dropping low enough that I had to lean in to hear her over the ambient noise, "about us, about what we want. What do we want?" "I want to be happy again," she said. And for the first time all weekend, something in her voice sounded genuine. "I want to wake up and not feel like I'm going through motions. I want passion and excitement and aliveness. Does that make sense?" "Perfect sense," I said, because it did. She wanted those things with Marcus. Had found those things with Marcus, and in 8 days she'd pursue them permanently. "Do you feel it too?" she asked. "That sense that we've been sleepwalking? That somewhere along the way we stopped really seeing each other?" The irony was almost beautiful. She was having this moment of honesty or pseudo-honesty while sitting across from a husband who knew she was planning to abandon him. We were having parallel conversations. She was asking if I felt disconnected while actively causing that disconnection. I was pretending ignorance while cataloging every word as more evidence of her duplicity. "I feel it," I said carefully, "but I don't think the solution is what you think it is." Something shifted in her expression. Wariness, maybe concern. "What do you mean?" I shouldn't have said anything. Should have kept playing my part, nodding sympathetically, agreeing that yes, we'd lost something and needed to find it again. But the whiskey and exhaustion and sheer weight of performance made me reckless. "I mean that you can't fix a marriage by running away from it," I said. "You can't find passion and excitement by destroying what you've built. You have to decide if what you have is worth fighting for, or if you're going to walk away." Claire stared at me, her glass halfway to her lips. "David, what are you talking about?" I backpedaled quickly. "I'm just saying that marriage is work. It's not always exciting or passionate. Sometimes it's boring and hard and requires you to show up even when you don't feel like it. And if that's not enough for you, I shrugged, "then maybe we need to be honest about what we really want." "I want you," she said, setting down her glass and taking both my hands in hers. "I want us. That's why I planned this trip, to reconnect, to remember what we're fighting for. David, I love you. I'm not going anywhere." The lie was so smooth, so practiced, that if I hadn't seen the plane tickets and property deeds and text messages, I would have believed her completely. But I had seen them, and sitting across from her, watching her perform devotion with such conviction, I realized something. Claire believed her own lies. She'd constructed a narrative where she was the victim of a passionless marriage, where Marcus was her salvation, where leaving me was actually the kindest thing she could do because I deserved someone who could give me what I deserved. She'd rewritten our entire relationship to justify her choices. And she'd done it so thoroughly that she could look me in the eye and say, "I love you," without flinching. "I love you too," I said, because the script required it. We finished our drinks and walked back to the bed and breakfast through the cold November night. Claire held my hand, talked about going hiking tomorrow, suggested we visit the winery we'd liked 3 years ago, planning a future that extended exactly 2 more days. In our room, she initiated sex with a kind of desperate intensity that felt more like proving something than actual desire. And I participated because refusing would raise questions I wasn't ready to answer. But the whole time I felt like I was watching from somewhere outside my body, observing two strangers perform intimacy they didn't feel. Afterward, Claire curled against me, her breathing slowing toward sleep. "This was a good idea," she murmured, "coming here, remembering." "Yeah," I said to the darkness. "I'm glad we did this." "Me too," I thought, because now I know exactly how good you are at lying. Now I know that everything you say is performance. Every touch is calculation. Every moment is staged. And Wednesday, when Vanessa and I sit you down with Marcus and show you everything we know, you won't be able to perform your way out of it. Claire's breathing deepened into sleep. I lay awake beside her, staring at the ceiling, counting down the hours until I could stop pretending. Saturday passed in a blur of forced normalcy. We hiked a trail through bare trees, visited the winery, and tasted wines neither of us cared about. Had dinner at a farm-to-table restaurant where Claire laughed too loud at my jokes and touched my arm constantly. Every moment felt choreographed, every gesture calculated. But the worst part was that I understood why. Claire wasn't performing because she was cruel. She was performing because she'd convinced herself this was kindness, that by giving me one last perfect weekend, she was somehow softening the blow of abandoning me, that these memories would be a gift I could hold on to after she was gone. The narcissism of it was staggering. Sunday morning, we packed our bags and said goodbye to Mrs. Chen, who hugged us both and insisted we come back for our 10th anniversary. "We will," Claire promised, smiling that public smile. "We won't," I thought, "because in 8 days you'll be in Costa Rica with Marcus, and I'll be sitting in a divorce attorney's office, dividing up the wreckage of our marriage." The drive home was quieter than the drive up. Claire dozed in the passenger seat while I navigated the highway, thinking about Wednesday, about the hotel conference room Vanessa had reserved, about the folders of evidence we'd present, about the expressions on Claire and Marcus's faces when they realized we knew everything. My phone buzzed with a text from Vanessa. "Wednesday at 7 p.m., the Meridian Hotel, Conference Room B. I've reserved it under my company name. Tell Claire you need to discuss something important. Maybe financial planning or estate updates, something that requires Marcus's professional input." "Perfect," I texted back at a red light. "How are you holding up?" "Counting down the hours." "You?" "Same. Just finished the Vermont trip. It was, I can imagine. You were almost done performing. 3 more days. 3 more days of living with someone who thought I was oblivious. 3 more days of accepting kisses and endearments from someone planning to disappear. 3 more days until truth finally got its moment. I could do 3 more days. Claire stirred awake as we hit the outskirts of the city. "We're home already?" "Almost. Another 15 minutes. She stretched, yawning. "That went by too fast. We should do it again soon." "Maybe for New Year's?" New Year's. She'd be gone by New Year's. Would probably spend it on a beach in Costa Rica with Marcus, toasting their new life, while I tried to piece together the remnants of mine. "Maybe," I said noncommittally. At home, Claire immediately started unpacking, humming as she moved clothes from her bag to the hamper. I watched her from the doorway, this woman I'd lived with for 9 years, and tried to reconcile the person I'd thought she was with the person I now knew her to be. "I have a work thing Wednesday night," I said casually. "Financial planning meeting with the new advisor, Vanessa something. She specializes in asset protection." Claire's hand stilled for just a moment on a sweater she was folding. "Vanessa?" "Vanessa Hartley. Someone at work recommended her. Apparently her husband runs that big investment firm downtown. Hartley and Associates?" I watched her face carefully, looking for recognition, for panic, for any sign that she understood what was coming. But Claire was too good. Her expression remained neutral, mildly interested. "Oh, that's nice. What time?" 7 o'clock, at the Meridian. Should only take an hour or so." "Okay." She resumed folding, her movements calm and steady. I'll probably work late anyway. Big week coming up. Right, the merger. The merger, she agreed. I left her to her unpacking and went to my office, closing the door. My hands were shaking, adrenaline or fear or anticipation. I wasn't sure. I texted Vanessa. It's done, I told her. Wednesday at 7. How did she react? No reaction. She's too good at hiding it. Not for much longer. 3 more days, David. Then they get exactly what they deserve. I set down my phone and looked around my office. The desk where I worked, the books I'd collected, the framed photos of a life that had been slowly dismantled while I smiled obliviously. In 3 days, this would all be different. The performance would end. The truth would finally have its moment. And Claire would discover that the husband she'd underestimated, the one she'd dismissed as someone who would be fine when she left, had been paying attention all along. 3 more days. I could survive 3 more days. Monday morning arrived with rain, the cold, relentless kind that turned the city gray and made everything feel heavier. I stood at the kitchen window with coffee I couldn't taste, watching water stream down the glass, and thought about time, how it could stretch endlessly when you were waiting for something, and how the last 48 hours before confrontation felt both infinite and terrifyingly brief. Claire emerged from the bedroom already dressed for work, moving through her morning routine with the efficiency of someone who'd perfected the choreography. Coffee from the machine I'd started, yogurt from the fridge, a kiss on my cheek that landed with the weight of habit rather than affection. Big day, I asked, because that's what I always asked. Depositions all morning, client meetings all afternoon. I'll be lucky if I'm home by 8. She grabbed her bag, checked her phone, a reflex so constant I'd stopped noticing it months ago. What about you? Normal Monday, meetings, emails, the usual. She smiled at me, that practiced expression I'd learned to recognize as performance. Don't forget about your financial planning thing Wednesday. Do you need me to come? I know asset protection. I could probably help. The offer was so audacious it almost made me laugh. Claire offering to attend the meeting where she'd discover I knew everything, where her entire carefully constructed exit strategy would collapse. No need, I said evenly. You're busy. I can handle it. Okay, well, text me when it's done. Let me know what they recommend. Another kiss, another performance of affection. Love you. Love you too, I said to her, retreating back. The door closed. I counted to 60, then pulled out my phone and texted Vanessa. She just left. How are you doing? The response came immediately. Terrified, excited, nauseous, all of the above. Marcus is whistling in the shower like he doesn't have a care in the world. 2 more days. 2 more days, she echoed. I've been going through the evidence folders all weekend. David, we have everything. Every transaction, every hotel receipt, every text message. They can't deny this. They can't perform their way out of it. Good. Are you okay? Really? I thought about the question. Was I okay? I was living with someone who thought I was oblivious while planning the confrontation that would destroy our marriage. I was performing normalcy so convincingly that my wife had no idea her world was about to implode. I was calm and focused and completely numb to everything except the singular goal of Wednesday at 7 o'clock. I'm fine, I texted back, just ready for this to be over. Soon, I promise. Soon we can stop pretending. I went to work because that's what the routine demanded. Sat through meetings where people talked about quarterly projections and strategic initiatives, and I nodded and contributed and acted like someone whose life wasn't suspended in the strange liminal space between knowing and revealing. My colleague Jennifer, the one who'd supposedly been on her honeymoon when Claire claimed she was being difficult at work, stopped by my desk around noon. Are you okay, David? You seem distracted. Just tired, I said. Busy weekend. How was Vermont? I'd forgotten I'd mentioned the trip to her last week, back when it was just a plan rather than a surreal performance I'd endured. It was fine, good to get away. Claire must have appreciated it. You're a good husband. The words hit differently than Jennifer intended. Good husband, was I? I'd been faithful, supportive, present. I'd built a life with Claire, made compromises, showed up even when it was hard. But I'd also been oblivious, complacent, unwilling to ask uncomfortable questions when the signs were there. What did that make me? Good? Foolish? complicit in my own deception? Thanks, I said because Jennifer was just being kind and didn't deserve my existential crisis. The afternoon dragged. I answered emails, reviewed reports, participated in a conference call about project timelines. Normal work, normal Monday, normal life for someone who wasn't carrying evidence of fraud and infidelity in his bag and counting down the hours until detonation. At 5 o'clock, my phone buzzed with a text from Claire. Going to be even later than I thought. Don't wait up for dinner. I stared at the message, wondering if she was actually working or if she was with Marcus. Wondered if it mattered anymore. In 2 days, I'd know everything. In 2 days, the wondering would finally end. No problem, I texted back. See you when you get home. Instead of going home to an empty apartment, I drove to Vanessa's neighborhood and parked down the street from her house. Not close enough to be obvious, but close enough to see. I texted her, I'm outside if you want to talk, no pressure. She appeared at her front door 5 minutes later, wearing jeans and a Georgetown sweatshirt, hair pulled into a ponytail. She looked younger like this, less polished, more like someone navigating crisis than the formidable forensic accountant who'd built the case against our spouses. Come in, she said. Kids are at my mother's for the night. Marcus is supposedly working late. Claire too, I said, following her inside. The dining room war room had been dismantled, but 3 accordion folders sat on the kitchen counter, each labeled in Vanessa's precise handwriting. Claire and Marcus, evidence Claire and Marcus. Financial crimes, Claire and Marcus, divorce demands. I've been organizing, Vanessa said, gesturing at the folders, making sure we have everything we need for Wednesday. Do you want to go through it one more time? No, I said. I've seen enough. I trust you. She nodded, pouring 2 glasses of wine without asking if I wanted any. We sat at her kitchen island, 2 people in the strange intimacy of shared betrayal, and drank in silence for a moment. I keep playing it out in my head, Vanessa said finally. Wednesday night, walking into that conference room, the expressions on their faces when they see us together, when they realize we know. I imagine it 100 different ways, and I can't decide which scenario is most likely. What are the options? Option 1, they deny everything. Try to gaslight us even when confronted with proof. That's Marcus's usual strategy. Make me question reality until I doubt my own memory. She took a long drink of wine. Option 2, they panic and lawyer up immediately. Won't speak to us, try to freeze assets, go on the defensive. And option 3? Option 3, they confess. They're shocked that we found out, maybe even relieved they don't have to keep lying. They work with us on an honest dissolution because the alternative, federal charges, professional ruin, is worse. Vanessa looked at me. Which do you think we'll get? I thought about Claire's performance in Vermont. The ease with which she'd lied, the conviction in her voice when she'd said she loved me and wasn't going anywhere. Thought about the emails where she'd so casually dismissed my feelings, decided I'd be fine without consulting me. Option 1, and I said. At least at first, they'll try to deny it to control the narrative. But when they see the evidence, the hotel receipts, the property deeds, the text messages, they'll shift to option 2, lawyers, defense mode, minimizing damage. That's what I think too, Vanessa refilled our glasses, which is why we need to be clear about our demands before they can regroup. The moment they see the evidence, we hand them the divorce terms. Clean break, honest disclosure, return of stolen funds. They sign or we go nuclear. How long do we give them to decide? 24 hours. We meet Wednesday at 7. They have until Thursday at 7 to agree to terms, or we contact the FBI, the state bar, Marcus's clients, everyone who needs to know what they've done. It was a good timeline. Long enough to consider options, but not long enough to mount a sophisticated defense. Long enough to feel the weight of consequences, but not long enough to escape them. What if they run? When? I asked. What if they see the evidence and decide to leave early before we can stop them? I've thought of that, Vanessa said. She pulled out her phone and showed me a document. I've already contacted the airlines, flagged their tickets as potentially fraudulent. If they try to use them before December 15th, they'll be detained for questioning. And I've put alerts on all of Marcus's accounts. If he tries to move large amounts of money between now and Thursday, I'll know immediately. You've covered everything. I've tried to, but people are unpredictable when they're cornered. There's no way to plan for every possibility. She set down her phone and looked at me directly. David, are you sure you want to do this? Once we walk into that room Wednesday night, there's no going back. Your marriage is over. Your life changes completely. If you have any doubts, I don't, I interrupted. I'm sure. Even though you still love her? The question caught me off guard. Did I still love Claire? I'd been so focused on the betrayal, the evidence, the confrontation, that I hadn't examined my own feelings in days. When I thought about my wife now, what did I feel? I love who I thought she was, I said finally. But that person doesn't exist. Maybe she never did. The woman I married wouldn't lie so casually, wouldn't help someone commit fraud, wouldn't plan to abandon me without a conversation. So no, I don't love Claire. I'm grieving someone who was never real. Vanessa nodded slowly. That's how I feel about Marcus. Like I've been married to a fiction. The real person, the one who can steal from clients and abandon his children. I don't know him at all. And I don't want to. We sat in comfortable silence, two people who'd formed an unlikely alliance born of necessity and shared pain. In another context, another life, we might have been friends. Now we were something else. Co-conspirators, fellow survivors, witnesses to each other's unraveling. Can I ask you something? Vanessa said. Of course. After this is done, after the confrontation, after the divorces, after everything settles, do you think you'll ever trust anyone again? Do you think you'll be able to fall in love without wondering if they're performing? It was the question I'd been avoiding asking myself. How did you rebuild after discovering that 9 years of intimacy had been at least partially fraudulent? How did you open yourself up to someone new when you couldn't trust your own judgment about who was real and who was just acting? I don't know, I admitted. Right now, the idea of dating anyone, of being vulnerable again, feels impossible. But maybe that changes. Maybe once I've had time to process this, to heal, to figure out who I am outside of this marriage, maybe then I'll be ready. You're more optimistic than me, Vanessa said. I can't imagine trusting a man again. Can't imagine lying next to someone at night and not wondering what they're hiding, who they're texting, what secrets they're keeping. Then maybe we don't, I said. Maybe we just focus on being okay alone, on building lives that don't require another person to validate them. That sounds lonely. So does performing intimacy with someone who's planning to leave you. Vanessa laughed, a real laugh, sharp and bitter and honest. Fair point. We talked for another hour, going over final details for Wednesday, rehearsing what we'd say, how we'd handle different scenarios. By the time I left, it was nearly 10 o'clock. I drove home through empty streets. The rain finally stopped, leaving everything wet and reflecting streetlights. Claire's car was in the driveway when I arrived. I found her in the bedroom, already changed into pajamas, scrolling through her phone with the focused attention she gave to things she didn't want me to see. Hey, she said, looking up when I entered. How was your day? Long, yours? Exhausting. Depositions ran late, then I had to review documents for tomorrow's hearing. She set down her phone reluctantly, I noticed. I'm beat. I went through my own nighttime routine, wondering what she'd been reading so intently on her phone. Messages from Marcus, probably. Planning their last few days before the big revelation, discussing logistics for the move, exchanging the kind of intimate messages that people who think they're getting away with something tend to share. In bed, Claire curled against me out of habit, her breathing evening out towards sleep almost immediately. I lay awake, counting down. 46 hours until the confrontation. 46 hours until Claire discovered I knew everything. 46 hours until the performance finally ended. My phone buzzed with a text from Vanessa. Can't sleep. Too nervous. Me neither, I texted back. This is really happening. Wednesday night, everything changes. Everything already changed. Wednesday is just when they find out. That's a good way to think about it. We're not ending our marriages. We're just acknowledging they already ended. Exactly. David, thank you for doing this with me. I couldn't have gotten through this alone. Same. See you Wednesday. See you Wednesday. I set down my phone and looked at Claire sleeping beside me. This woman I'd built a life with, who I'd trusted completely, who'd been systematically dismantling our marriage for over a year while I remained oblivious. In 46 hours, she'd wake up to a different reality. In 46 hours, the fiction we'd been living would finally collapse under the weight of truth. I closed my eyes and tried to sleep, but my mind kept jumping forward. Wednesday at 7 o'clock. The Meridian Hotel, Conference Room B. Vanessa and I walking in together. The moment Claire and Marcus saw us, realized what was happening. The folders of evidence laid out on the table like a prosecution case. The shock, the denials, the eventual understanding that we knew everything. I played the scene over and over, different variations, different outcomes, but they all ended the same way. With truth finally getting its moment. With justice, or something like it, being served. With me and Vanessa walking out of that conference room, free from the weight of deception, even if we walked into uncertainty. Tuesday arrived like any other day. Claire left early for work. I went to my office and accomplished exactly nothing. Too distracted to focus on anything except the calendar counting down. 24 hours. Tomorrow at this time, it would be done. Vanessa texted around noon. Final check. You're still in? Still in. You? Terrified but determined. I've triple-checked everything. We're ready. What time should I get there tomorrow? 6:30. I want to set up the room, make sure everything is perfect before they arrive. We'll tell them 7 o'clock, so we'll have time to prepare. See you at 6:30. The rest of Tuesday crawled by with agonizing slowness. Every minute felt like 10, every hour like a day. I went through motions at work, nodded at appropriate times in meetings, responded to emails with words that meant nothing. At home that evening, Claire was in an unusually good mood, humming while she made dinner, asking about my day with what seemed like genuine interest, suggesting we watch a movie together. I recognized it as a variation of the Vermont performance, create positive final memories to ease the guilt of abandonment. You're in a good mood, I observed. I am, she agreed, smiling at me from across the kitchen island. I just feel like things are settling, you know? Work is going well. We had that great weekend in Vermont. Everything feels lighter somehow. Because you're almost free, I thought, but didn't say. Because in 6 days, you'll be on a plane to Costa Rica, starting your new life, and the weight of this marriage will finally be lifted. That's good, I said instead. I'm glad. We watched some thriller she'd picked, her head on my shoulder, her hand in mine, the perfect picture of domestic contentment, the perfect lie. At midnight, when Claire was asleep and I was lying awake counting down hours, Vanessa texted one more time. Tomorrow we take our lives back. Tomorrow, I agreed. I didn't sleep that night. Just lay in the darkness, listening to Claire breathe, watching the clock advance minute by minute toward Wednesday, toward 7 o'clock, toward the moment when everything would finally be real. At 6 a.m., my alarm went off. Claire stirred beside me. Morning already, she mumbled. Morning already, I confirmed. The last day of our marriage had begun. Wednesday, December 9th, 2025. The day I'd been counting toward for weeks arrived with deceptive normalcy, pale winter sunlight, the smell of coffee brewing, Claire emerging from the shower wrapped in a towel, humming something I didn't recognize. Big day? I asked, the question now loaded with meaning she couldn't perceive. Another deposition, probably running late again. She kissed my cheek, her skin still warm from the shower. What time is your financial planning thing? 7, should be done by 8:30. Okay, I'll probably just grab dinner near the office. Text me when you're done? She smiled at me, that practice performance I'd learned to decode. Maybe we can catch up this weekend. I feel like we've barely seen each other. Because in 6 days you're leaving, I thought. Because you're in the final countdown, and every conversation is just running out the clock. Sounds good, I said. She dressed for work, a charcoal suit that made her look powerful and professional, the armor she wore into courtrooms and client meetings. I watched her apply makeup with the precision of someone preparing for battle, though she didn't know the real battle would come tonight. "So you okay?" she asked, catching my gaze in the mirror. "You're staring. Just thinking how beautiful you are." The compliment made her smile, genuine pleasure mixing with something else. Guilt, maybe, or satisfaction that her performance was still working. "Flatterer," she said, but I could see she was pleased. Okay, I'm off. Love you. Love you too, I said to her, retreating back. The door closed. I counted to 60, then pulled out my phone. She just left. I texted Vanessa. How are you? Nauseous, excited, terrified. Marcus is already gone. He had an early meeting. Or so he says, probably coordinating final logistics with Claire. Probably. David, are we really doing this? In 12 hours, it'll be done. 12 hours, she echoed. I've been up since 4 going through everything one more time. We have it all. Every line, every dollar, every hotel room. They can't talk their way out of this. See you at 6:30, 6:30. Don't be late. I went to work, but calling it work was generous. I sat at my desk, stared at my computer screen, accomplished nothing. Jennifer stopped by around 10 to ask about a project timeline, and I gave her answers I wouldn't remember 5 minutes later. You sure you're okay? She asked, studying my face with concern. You've seemed off all week. Just personal stuff, I said. Nothing to worry about. If you need to talk, I appreciate it, really, but I'm fine. She didn't look convinced, but let it drop. The morning crawled by with agonizing slowness. Every time I checked my phone, fewer minutes had passed than I'd thought. Time had become elastic, stretching endlessly between me and 7 o'clock. At noon, my phone buzzed with a text from Claire. Deposition is a nightmare. Might be here until midnight. Sorry. I stared at the message, wondering if she was actually at a deposition or with Marcus, making final preparations for their exit, wondering if it mattered anymore. No worries, I texted back. Good luck. At 3 o'clock, Vanessa sent me a photo, the Meridian Hotel conference room, empty and waiting. A long table with chairs arranged precisely, windows overlooking the city, a professional space for a professional confrontation. Ready, she'd written beneath the image. Almost, I replied. The afternoon bled into evening. At 5 o'clock, I left the office and drove home to change, trading my work clothes for dark jeans and a button-down shirt. Not too formal, not too casual. The clothes of someone attending a financial planning meeting, not orchestrating the destruction of 2 marriages. At 6 o'clock, I loaded the USB drive with my copies of all the evidence into my laptop bag. Checked my phone one more time. No messages from Claire. At 6:15, I got in my car and drove toward the Meridian Hotel, my heart hammering against my ribs with a rhythm that felt both terrifying and clarifying. This was really happening. After weeks of planning and gathering evidence and performing normalcy, the moment had finally arrived. I pulled into the parking garage at 6:25, sat in my car for a moment, breathing deeply, centering myself. Then I grabbed my bag and walked into the hotel lobby. The Meridian was the kind of upscale business hotel that hosted conferences and corporate events, all polished marble and understated elegance. I took the elevator to the 3rd floor, found conference room B at the end of a quiet hallway. Vanessa was already inside. She'd transformed the space into something between a boardroom and a courtroom. At the head of the table sat 4 folders, each labeled with a name. Marcus, Claire, David, Vanessa. Around the room, she'd set up a laptop connected to a projector, ready to display evidence. A pitcher of water and glasses sat on a sideboard. Civilized touches for an uncivilized conversation. You're early, she said, looking up from where she'd been arranging papers. So are you. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. She looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes, hair pulled back severely, wearing a navy dress that made her look like she was attending a funeral. Maybe she was. I've been here since 5:30, she admitted. Couldn't sit at home anymore. Had to do something with my hands. She gestured at the setup. Is it too much? Does it look too staged? It looks professional, I said, like we mean business. We do mean business. She pulled out a chair and sat down heavily. David, I need you to promise me something. What? No matter what happens tonight, no matter how they react, what they say, how they try to manipulate us, we see this through. We don't back down. We don't accept half-truths or partial explanations. We demand complete honesty or we walk away and go nuclear. Promise me. I promise, I said, sitting down beside her. I'm not backing down. Not after everything. She nodded, visibly relieved. Okay, good. Because I keep imagining Marcus doing that thing he does, making me feel crazy, making me doubt what I know is true. And I need someone here who won't let me cave. I won't let you cave, and you won't let me accept Claire's performance. Deal. We sat in silence for a moment, two people preparing for battle, steeling ourselves for what came next. What did you tell Marcus? I asked. To get him here? I told him we needed to have a serious conversation about our marriage, that I'd hired a mediator to help us talk through some issues, and that the mediator had suggested we include our financial advisor to discuss asset division if we decided to separate. She smiled grimly. I made it sound like I was ready to accept a divorce. Like this would be me finally giving up, making it easy for him. And he agreed? Enthusiastically. He probably thinks this is perfect. I'm doing his work for him, setting up the logistics of our separation so he can leave guilt-free. Her hands clenched into fists. He has no idea what's waiting for him. What about Claire? How did you get her to agree to come? I didn't. You did, remember? You told her you had a financial planning meeting with me. She thinks she's supporting you, being the helpful wife who understands asset protection. Vanessa checked her watch. They should both arrive around 7. Marcus is always exactly on time. He prides himself on it. Claire? Usually a few minutes late. She likes to make an entrance. Perfect. So Marcus will be here first, wondering where the mediator is. Then Claire arrives, sees you here with me, starts to get confused, and then we hit them with everything. It was a good plan, solid, strategic, designed to maximize impact and minimize their ability to regroup. At 6:50, we heard voices in the hallway. Vanessa and I exchanged a look. This was it. No going back now. The door opened and Marcus Hartley walked in. He was exactly as he'd looked in the photos. Salt and pepper hair, expensive suit, the kind of confident bearing that came from success and self-assurance. When he saw me sitting next to Vanessa, confusion flickered across his face. Vanessa, what's going on? Who is this? Marcus, this is David Mercer, Vanessa said, her voice steady and cold. Claire's husband. Please have a seat. The confusion deepened into wariness. Claire's husband? I don't understand. You will. Sit down. Something in her tone made him comply. He took a seat across from us, his eyes moving between Vanessa and me, trying to piece together what was happening. Where's the mediator? He asked. There is no mediator, Vanessa said. There's just us and the truth. Before Marcus could respond, the door opened again. Claire walked in, pulling off her coat, already talking. Sorry I'm late, the deposition ran. She stopped mid-sentence when she saw all of us. Her eyes went wide, moving from me to Vanessa to Marcus and back again. I watched the calculation happen behind her eyes, trying to understand, trying to find an explanation that made sense. David, what are you doing here? I thought you had a financial planning meeting. I do, I said calmly. Sit down, Claire. I don't understand. Why is Marcus here? Because, Vanessa said, standing up and walking to the head of the table. This isn't a financial planning meeting. This is a reckoning. Please, both of you, sit down. Claire looked at me, her face pale, eyes pleading for explanation. I gestured to the empty chair next to Marcus. She sat slowly, her hands trembling slightly as she set down her bag. What is this? Marcus demanded, his voice sharp with authority, the tone of someone used to controlling conversations. Vanessa, what game are you playing? No games, Vanessa said. She picked up the remote for the projector and clicked it on. The screen filled with an image, Claire and Marcus walking into the Westin Hotel, his hand on her back, her face turned toward him with unmistakable intimacy. The timestamp read, November 3rd, 2025. 3 weeks ago, Claire's sharp intake of breath was audible in the quiet room. We know everything, Vanessa said simply. Every hotel room, every lie, every dollar you've moved, every property you've purchased, every plan you've made. She clicked to the next image, hotel receipts, then another, text messages between Marcus and Claire, then another, property deeds showing Claire's name. Marcus had gone very still, his face carefully blank. But Claire was openly panicking now, her eyes filling with tears. David, I can't explain. No, I said, my voice harder than I'd ever heard it. No more explanations, no more lies. We're done with your performance, Claire. Vanessa clicked through more images. Bank statements showing Marcus's embezzlement, property purchases in Costa Rica and Panama, and Portugal, text messages planning their December 15th departure. The evidence was overwhelming, irrefutable, devastating. Here's what's going to happen, Vanessa said, setting down the remote and opening the folders in front of her. You're going to sit there quietly and listen. Then you're going to look at every piece of evidence we've compiled. Then you're going to make a choice. You have no right, Marcus started, but Vanessa cut him off. I have every right. You stole from me, from our children, from your clients. You've been conducting an affair for over a year while lying to my face. You've been planning to abandon your family and flee the country with money you embezzled. So yes, Marcus, I have every right. Claire was crying now, tears streaming down her face. David, please, this isn't what it looks like. It's exactly what it looks like, I said. You've been having an affair with Marcus. You've been helping him hide millions of dollars in assets. You've purchased properties in 4 different countries using income from our marriage. You have one-way tickets to Costa Rica for December 15th. Should I continue? She opened her mouth, closed it again. No words came out. Vanessa pulled out 2 packets from the folders and slid them across the table. One to Marcus, one to Claire. These are our terms. You have 24 hours to agree to them. If you do, we move forward with quiet, honest divorces, full financial disclosure, equitable asset division, no contests. You return the money Marcus embezzled to his clients. You cooperate fully. And if we don't, Marcus asked, his voice dangerous and low. Then we take everything we found to the FBI, I said. The securities fraud, the embezzlement, the wire transfers across international borders. We contact the State Bar Association about Claire's ethics violations. We notify all of Marcus's clients about where their money really went. We make this as public and devastating as possible. You're bluffing, Marcus said, but I could hear the uncertainty in his voice. Vanessa smiled, cold and sharp as a blade. Try me. I'm a forensic accountant, Marcus. This is what I do. I've built cases that sent people to prison for decades. Do you really want to test whether I'm bluffing? Silence filled the conference room, heavy and suffocating. Claire was staring at the packet in front of her like it might bite her. Marcus's jaw was clenched so tight I could see the muscles jumping. How did you find out? Claire asked finally, her voice small and broken. Does it matter? I replied. I need to know. How long have you known? 3 weeks, Vanessa answered. I've been tracking you both for 3 weeks. Building this case, documenting everything. Did you really think you were being careful? That we wouldn't notice the lies piling up? You're making a mistake, Marcus said, shifting tactics to reasonable and calm, the negotiator trying to regain control. Yes, Vanessa, we've been having an affair, and I'm sorry for that, truly, but everything else, the properties, the investments, those are legitimate business transactions. You're misinterpreting. Don't, I interrupted. Don't insult our intelligence by trying to spin this. We have your text messages, Marcus. We have you literally discussing how to hide money from Vanessa. We have Claire helping you set up shell companies to conceal assets. We have everything. Vanessa clicked to a new image on the projector, the email exchange between Claire and Marcus from October, the one where they discussed the Hendricks account and keeping amounts small enough to avoid audits. Claire made a small, broken sound when she saw it. 24 hours, Vanessa repeated. Read the terms. Think carefully about your options, and remember that we have multiple copies of all this evidence in multiple locations. Destroying what's in this room won't help you. Marcus stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. This is extortion. This is justice, Vanessa corrected. You've been planning to destroy our lives for over a year. We're just offering you a choice about how the destruction happens, quietly and equitably, or publicly and catastrophically. Your call. He grabbed his packet and headed for the door. I need to speak with my attorney. You have 24 hours, Vanessa called after him. Tomorrow night, 7 o'clock, you either agree to our terms or we start making calls. Marcus paused at the door, looked back at Claire. Are you coming? She was still sitting, staring at the evidence projected on the screen, tears running silently down her face. I need a minute. Claire, go, Marcus. Just go. He left, the door closing heavily behind him. The three of us sat in silence. Me and Vanessa on one side of the table, Claire alone on the other, the projector still displaying her betrayals in high definition. How could you? I asked finally. 9 years, Claire. 9 years of marriage, and you couldn't even have the courage to tell me you wanted out. You just planned to disappear? She looked at me then, her face destroyed by tears and mascara. I didn't mean for it to happen this way. It started so small, just conversations with Marcus, just feeling understood by someone for the first time in years. And then it became more, and I didn't know how to stop it, and so you helped him commit fraud instead? You risked your license, your freedom, everything we built together? I love him, she whispered. I know that doesn't excuse anything, but I love him, and I didn't love you anymore. I'm sorry, David. I'm so sorry, but I didn't love you, and I didn't know how to tell you. The honesty was almost worse than the lies. At least the lies had let me pretend there was still something worth saving. Then you should have told me, I said, my voice breaking despite my efforts to stay calm. You should have come to me a year ago and said, this isn't working, I'm not happy, I want a divorce. That's what people with integrity do. They don't sneak around and plan escapes and help their lovers steal money. I know, she sobbed. I know, and I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. Vanessa stood up, gathering her folders. Read the terms, Claire. You have 24 hours to decide if you want to handle this like an adult or if you want us to destroy everything you've built. Your choice. She walked to the door and I followed her, leaving Claire alone in the conference room with the evidence of her betrayal projected on the wall behind her. In the hallway, Vanessa sagged against the wall, her professional composure finally cracking. Oh my God, we did it. We actually did it. Are you okay? I asked. I don't know. Are you? I thought about Claire's face, the tears, the admission that she didn't love me anymore. Thought about 9 years of marriage ending in a conference room with projected PowerPoints and ultimatums. No, I said honestly, but I will be. Vanessa nodded, wiping at her eyes. Come on, let's get out of here. I need a drink. We left the Meridian together, two people who'd just detonated their marriages, walking into an uncertain future. Behind us, Claire was still in that conference room, reading through the terms of her surrender. And tomorrow we'd find out if she and Marcus would accept honest destruction or demand the catastrophic kind. Either way, the performance was finally over. The truth had won. I didn't go home that night. The thought of walking into the apartment I'd shared with Claire, sleeping in the bed where she'd lied beside me for months, breathing the air of our demolished life, it was too much. Instead, I checked into a hotel 3 blocks from the Meridian and sat in a generic room that could have been anywhere, staring at my phone. No calls from Claire, no texts, just silence. Vanessa had gone home to her children, texting me around 10. Kids are asleep. Marcus hasn't come home. I think he's with his lawyer. Probably, I'd replied. How are you holding up? Numb. You? Same. Now it was nearly midnight, and I couldn't stop replaying the confrontation. The look on Marcus's face when he'd realized we knew everything. The sound Claire made when she saw her own emails projected on the screen. The way her voice had broken when she'd said, I didn't love you anymore. At least that part was honest. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. David, please. We need to talk. I know I don't deserve it, but please call me. Claire, I stared at the message. She'd probably gotten a new phone or was texting from a colleague's device, trying to reach me when I wouldn't answer her regular number. The desperation was palpable even through text. I didn't call. Instead, I texted Vanessa. Claire's trying to reach me. Marcus too. I blocked his number. You should do the same. What if they want to accept the terms? Then they can tell us tomorrow at 7. Until then, radio silence. Don't let them manipulate you. She was right. Any conversation now would just be damage control, performance, attempts to spin the narrative before the 24 hours expired. I blocked Claire's new number and turned off my phone. Sleep was impossible. I lay in the dark hotel room, watching headlights track across the ceiling from cars on the street below, thinking about how quickly a life could disintegrate. 3 weeks ago, I'd been a man eating dinner alone at a restaurant, oblivious. Now I was in a hotel room, my marriage ended, waiting to see if my wife would accept honest dissolution or force me to destroy her professionally. How had it come to this? Around 2 a.m., I gave up on sleep and turned my phone back on. 17 missed calls from Claire's new number. 12 text messages, each more desperate than the last. Please, David, just 5 minutes. I know you're angry, but we can work through this. It wasn't supposed to end like this. I never wanted to hurt you. Please call me. Please, why? The messages were pure Claire, emotional, manipulative, designed to make me feel like the cruel one for not responding. But I'd learned to read the performance. She didn't want to talk because she felt guilty. She wanted to talk because she needed to control the narrative, to soften me before tomorrow's deadline. I deleted the messages without responding. At 6 a.m., I showered and dressed in the same clothes I'd worn the night before, checked out of the hotel and drove to an all-night diner where I ordered coffee I couldn't taste and eggs I couldn't eat. The morning news played on a television mounted in the corner, something about the stock market, weather predictions, the ordinary concerns of people whose lives weren't imploding. At 7:30, Vanessa called. You okay? You sound terrible. Didn't sleep, you? Same. Marcus came home around 3 a.m., went straight to the guest room. I heard him on the phone for hours, probably with his lawyer, maybe with Claire. She paused. David, they're going to fight this. I can feel it. Let them fight. We have everything we need. Do we? I've been going over it all night in my head. What if they claim the evidence was obtained illegally? What if they get everything thrown out? Then we still have the truth, I said. We still know what they did, and we can still make their lives difficult even if we can't prove it in court. That's not justice. Maybe not. But it's something. Silence on the line. Then Vanessa said quietly, I'm scared, David. Scared they'll find a way out of this. Scared we went through all of this for nothing. We didn't go through it for nothing. We stopped living in the dark. We demanded honesty even if we didn't get it. That matters. Does it? Because right now it just feels like we blew up our lives and they're going to walk away anyway. I understood her fear, had felt it myself in the dark hotel room at 3 a.m., but something had clarified for me in those sleepless hours. We'd already won the only victory that mattered. We'd stopped accepting lies. We'd stopped pretending. Whether Marcus and Claire faced legal consequences or not, they'd never again be able to gaslight us into doubting our own reality. They don't get to walk away clean, I said. Even if they fight the divorce terms, even if they somehow avoid criminal charges, we know the truth. Their families know the truth. They have to live with that. Vanessa was quiet for a moment. You're right. Thank you. I needed to hear that. Call me if you need anything. Otherwise, I'll see you tonight at 7. Tonight at 7. The day passed in a fog. I couldn't go to work. Couldn't pretend to care about spreadsheets and meetings when my entire life was suspended in the hours between now and 7 o'clock. Instead, I drove around the city aimlessly, thinking about Claire and 9 wasted years and the future that stretched ahead of me, empty and uncertain. Around 3 o'clock, my phone rang, a number I didn't recognize, but not Claire's new number. I answered against my better judgment. David Mercer? A woman's voice, professional and crisp. Speaking. This is Catherine Voss from Whitman and Associates. I'm representing Claire Mercer in her divorce proceedings. I'd like to discuss the terms you presented yesterday evening. So it was starting, the lawyers, the negotiations, the slow grinding machinery of legal dissolution. The terms are non-negotiable, I said. Claire and Marcus have until 7 o'clock tonight to accept them, or we move forward with criminal referrals. Mr. Mercer, I understand you're angry, but these terms are extremely aggressive. Full asset disclosure, division of properties my client purchased independently. Return of funds. Funds Marcus embezzled, I interrupted. Properties purchased with income earned during our marriage. If Claire wants to fight this in court, we're happy to do so. But then everything becomes public record. All the evidence, all the fraud, all of it. Catherine Voss was quiet for a moment. You're serious about the criminal referrals? Completely serious. We have documentation of securities fraud, embezzlement, wire transfers that cross state and international lines. We're not bluffing, Ms. Voss. My client maintains that she had no knowledge of any criminal activity. I almost laughed. Your client's emails discuss helping Marcus hide money from audits. Her name is on property deeds for assets purchased with embezzled funds. She created the legal structures that made the fraud possible. So if she wants to claim ignorance, she can do it to federal prosecutors. Another pause. What if we countered with modified terms? Claire agrees to the divorce, to asset disclosure, but contests the division you're proposing. Then we go to court and everything becomes public. Claire's affair, Marcus's embezzlement, all of it. Is that what she wants? Her name in the papers, her license under review, her professional reputation destroyed? You're threatening her. I'm offering her a choice, clean in private or messy in public. Those are the options. Catherine Voss sighed. I'll discuss this with my client, but Mr. Mercer, I should tell you, you're not the only one with lawyers. If this goes to court, it won't be as simple as you think. Then let's go to court, I said. I have nothing left to lose. I hung up before she could respond. An hour later, Vanessa called. Marcus's lawyer just contacted me with basically the same conversation. They're trying to negotiate. What did you say? I said, no, we gave them terms, we gave them a deadline. If they want to fight, we fight. Good. David, I think they're going to reject the terms. Think they're going to force us go nuclear. Then we go nuclear, I said, surprised by how calm I felt. We knew this was possible, we prepared for it. I know, I hope they'd be smart enough to take the easy way out. Claire and Marcus aren't smart. They're arrogant. They think they can lawyer their way out of anything. Can they? I don't know, but at least we tried. At least we demanded honesty. At 6 o'clock, I drove back to the Meridian. Vanessa was already there, sitting in the same conference room where we'd confronted them 24 hours ago. She looked exhausted, hollowed out, but determined. Ready? She asked. Ready, I confirmed. We waited. 6:30 came and went. 6:45. At 6:55, my phone buzzed with a text from Catherine Voss. My client requests a 1-week extension to review the terms with her legal team. I showed Vanessa the message. She pulled out her own phone, showing me a similar text from Marcus's attorney. They're stalling, she said, trying to buy time to hide more assets, I agreed. At exactly 7 o'clock, Vanessa opened her laptop and began typing. Then we start making calls. FBI first, then State Bar Association, then Marcus's clients. My finger hovered over the screen, about to forward all our evidence to the contact Vanessa had given me at the FBI's white-collar crime division. The door opened. Claire walked in, alone, carrying the packet we'd given her. Her face was pale, eyes red from crying, but her voice was steady. I accept your terms, she said, all of them. 3 months later, I stood on a beach I'd never seen before, watching the sun rise over water that stretched endlessly toward a horizon I was finally ready to meet. The divorce had been finalized 6 weeks ago, clean, quiet, exactly as we'd demanded. Claire had signed every document, disclosed every asset, agreed to every term. Marcus had returned the embezzled funds to his clients, though it had cost him his business and most of his reputation. They'd both avoided criminal charges by cooperating fully, but their professional lives were effectively over. The last time I'd seen Claire was in the attorney's office, signing the final papers. She'd looked smaller somehow, diminished by the weight of consequences she'd finally been forced to carry. I really am sorry, she'd said as we left the building, our marriage officially dissolved. I know, I'd replied. And I did. She was sorry. Sorry she'd been caught. Sorry everything had fallen apart. Sorry her carefully planned escape had become her public humiliation. But I wasn't sorry anymore. Not about the confrontation, not about the divorce, not about demanding truth, even when it destroyed everything. My phone buzzed. A text from Vanessa. How's the beach? Perfect. Quiet. Exactly what I needed. Good. You deserve it. Vanessa had sold her house and moved closer to her mother, prioritizing her children's stability over everything else. Marcus saw the kids on supervised visits, but mostly he disappeared. Last I'd heard, he was working some consulting job in another state, trying to rebuild from the ruins of his choices. Vanessa and I talked once a week, two survivors checking in, making sure the other was still standing. Not romantic, just connection, understanding, the bond of people who'd walk through fire together. When are you back? She texted. 2 more days, then back to reality. What's reality look like now? I thought about it, watching the waves roll in with their ancient, indifferent rhythm. Reality looked like a small apartment I'd rented, a job I was starting to care about again, hobbies I'd abandoned during my marriage. Reality looked like honesty, even when it was uncomfortable, like choosing truth over performance, like freedom. Reality looks like possibility, I texted back. For the first time in years, I don't know what happens next. And that feels good. That feels like winning. Yeah, it does. I pocketed my phone and turned toward the sun, ready for whatever came next. Whatever came next.